What happens when a member of Congress decides to actually dig into the ground level of immigrant kids being bused and flown to various sections of the country, and then meets up with a rep from Health and Human Services? The congressman is not pleased. This is just the entree to the current immigration fact sheet. Everything from community uprisings, quarantine notices, the CDC getting involved, and smugglers threatening ranchers along the border. And with regard to the situation in Iraq, perhaps we need to consider two important words: ballistic missiles. Action Stations. We launch the fastest 3 hours of news and question everything for Thursday, July 3rd, 2014. Former Majority Whip by the name of Frank Underwood, and what he can teach everyone about the election mess in Mississippi. It is just another interesting political house of cards. First, we get this edition of Newsmax Now with John Bachman.
Thank you, Ed. It has been a record day on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average climbing past 17,000 for the first time in history. That was also partly because the jobs numbers were announced today. 288,000 jobs announced in June. That was a big boost for the U.S. economy. As a result, of course, those stocks kept going high. You can see it right here, up 31 points. We'll keep an eye on the markets and keep you updated throughout the day. The trading expected to be pretty low ahead of the holiday weekend. And what was already the ugliest political fight this year keeps getting uglier. State Senator Chris McDaniel refuses to concede Mississippi's Republican Senate runoff against incumbent Thad Cochran. And yesterday, McDaniel's supporters allegedly hijacked Cochran's conference call with the press. And you won't believe what was said. Take a listen.
I'd like to know if black people were harvesting cotton, why do you think it's okay to harvest their votes?
Well, the call got worse from there. After those comments, the Daily Beast called this racist and conspiracy nuts have turned the Cochran call into, quote, the biggest campaign blank show of 2014. I'll let you fill in the blank there with your own minds. The unidentified caller is believed to be a political supporter of McDaniel. McDaniel's supporters claim the election was stolen by Democrats who voted in the Republican runoff. Yet McDaniels himself voted in a Democratic primary a few years back and has not answered those questions about what he did back in 2003. So far, McDaniel will continue to fight these results, and he will condemn the comments made by his supporters. McDaniel has already been accused of having white supremacist ties, so we'll keep you updated on what happens down in Mississippi. In a story, the Wall Street Journal says the immigration debate is causing tensions within the GOP. The national dispute over what to do with immigrants crossing into America has divided Republicans. Lawmakers in border states are using conservative viewpoints to win over their districts, while Republicans on the national stage are taking positions aimed at winning a national election. According to the Wall Street Journal, the president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which backs several Republican candidates, says if Republicans don't pass immigration reform, quote, they shouldn't bother to run a presidential candidate in 2016. That coming a while back. Now, according to new poll data, Hispanics heavily favored President Obama. I guess this is old poll data back in 2012, but many Republicans say if they want to win the White House this time around, they'll have to embrace immigration, that part of the Growth and Opportunity report that came out after the 2012 race. I'm John Bachman. We're back with more news in 30 minutes.
We know that there's around 600 children here at this facility right now, 135 more coming in today, being flown in to the state. And we know there'll be more children, probably up to around 1,200. So, the question is, they may be fine today, but what will it look like tomorrow, the next week, or the next week, or the next month? And they said that they're supposed to be up here for 120 days. But once again, that begs the question, if you're not controlling the borders, and we keep seeing more of these children and teenagers coming across the border illegally, and you're not going to secure the borders, what makes us think that it's only going to be 120 days? It's just going to get worse.
Communities are up in arms. Let me say that again so you can hear me. The people who live in communities are up in arms. Illegal immigrants being bused and flown to their towns amidst security concerns, health concerns, and the real problem of who is going to pay for all this. On the other side, those who chastise protesters for scaring a bunch of kids who have done nothing more than be here thanks to someone else as they try to escape murderous gangs and poverty in their own country. How dare we, for 1 second, deny them a chance at freedom, they say. The two hardline sides in the current immigration debate with no easy answers. Let us welcome into MidPoint, Mario Lopez is president of the Hispanic Leadership Fund, and Jessica Vaughn is director of policy studies for the Center for Immigration Studies. I believe we have both of them with us here today. I welcome you both into MidPoint.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, Mario, I am told that we have you. We do not have Jessica. We are efforting to get her right now. So, Mario, let me go ahead and begin with you. Hopefully we can see you here in just a moment and make sure that we can see you. Let me ask you, first of all, about what is going on in California right now. The people, the citizens who are blockading buses, who are protesting, who are up in arms at community meetings. Is it not fair to say that they certainly have a right to be upset about what's happening to their community?
Well, look, I mean, everyone has a right to be upset because this is a very frustrating situation. So I don't blame anyone for being frustrated with this, with the humanitarian crisis that's going on right now on the Texas-Mexico border. It's crazy. I do think that, you know, it's a little, I don't know what you want to call it, misplaced maybe, because the fact is that even if we want to deport these folks, we have to process them and you know, identify who they are and where they come from and do all that stuff. And so blocking buses from being able to take folks in order to be processed seems like it's just only going to delay the situation. But certainly I do understand the frustrations of folks all across the country who want a real solution to this issue.
But is it not just that point as well, that the people who are on the ground right now, the citizens themselves, they don't feel as if there are any solutions whatsoever, that it's simply as business the same day, and they don't feel as if anybody in authority is listening to them and trying to at least settle it in some small way?
I'm sorry, say that question again?
Is it not fair to say, though, that these are people who are upset about what is happening and they don't feel as if anybody is listening to them, that they're not trying to at least do something in order to stop the flood of immigrants into their town?
Right. And no, and again, that is completely understandable. And that's something that, you know, we can fix this problem once and for all. This is not a new situation. This has been going on for 10, 12, 14 years. We've had this immigration issue that really needs to be solved. And the best way that we can do that is by a combination of having substantial border security measures, which have increased over the years, but we're an area where we can still do better. And also to fix the legal immigration process so that we have an orderly way to process folks who do want to immigrate legally to the United States, and not the current mess, which is also a bureaucratic nightmare. I mean, it's nearly impossible to immigrate legally to the United States. And that is a problem that we have to fix. And those two things really go hand in hand if we want to get a handle on this issue once and for all.
Okay, Mario, I'm going to ask you to hold on, if you would, please, for just a couple of moments, because we are now joined by Oklahoma Congressman Jim Bridenstine, and it is an interesting story that he tells with regard to trying to find out what is going on at the ground level. Congressman, are you there? And thanks for joining us.
I am. Thank you for having me.
Tell us, if you would please, briefly
the
story that, yes, we can. Tell us, if you would please, briefly, the story that started this all, because you attempted to find out what was going on at ground level, yet you were stopped by members of HHS.
That's right. So I went down to Fort Sill, which is an Army base here in Oklahoma. I represent the 1st District of Oklahoma. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, so I visit all the bases here in Oklahoma. I went down there, I visited with the Commanding General. We had a great conversation about air defense artillery. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
We had a great conversation about air defense artillery, the fires brigades that are down there, military modernization. So we talked about national security issues and national defense issues. And then I told them I wanted to visit the HHS facility, the Health and Human Services facility that is housing these unaccompanied alien children. UACs is what they're called by HHS. And he said, look, that's not my mission, but certainly if you want to go over there, you can. I went over there. They had a barracks there, just like any other military barracks. It looks like bachelor housing, except this time it had a chain link fence, a newly built chain link fence all around the facility. And then that chain link fence had cloth on it so that you couldn't see through it and nobody could see out. And we drove around it a couple of times. All we wanted to do was find an access point, a gate guard, if you will, somebody who could make a radio call and see if we could talk to the person who was in charge of the facility. Interestingly, there was no access point. There was no gate guard. It was sealed down, chain link fence. But we drove around a couple of times. Finally, we saw somebody peering through, like looking through the cracks, if you will, at us as we're driving around. We stopped the car. We got out. We asked the gentleman if it would be okay if we could. I said, I'm a member of Congress. My name is Jim Bridenstine. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I represent the 1st District of Oklahoma. And I told him I'd like to talk to the person in charge of the facility. He made a radio call, and they called back and said, look, if he'd like to take a tour, he can come back on July 21st. This was on July 1st, by the way. So they wanted me to wait 21 days. And I said, make sure he understands I'm a member of Congress, and this is federal property. And he did. He made another radio call. And eventually the gentleman came down, who seemingly runs the facility. And he said, look, we can't accommodate any visitors until July 21st, and you have to go through the legislative liaison for Health and Human Services. At which point I said, look, you do understand I am a member of Congress, and this is federal property. And he said, yes, I understand that. There were security guards around. It was very clear that I was not going to be welcomed as a visitor. And so we left. We called the Deputy Communications Director for HHS. His secretary answered the phone and told me that he would only communicate via email. I said, make sure he understands I'm a member of Congress. And she put me on hold. She came back and she said, hey, he'll be happy to accept your email. This is unsatisfactory. As you're aware, there are terrible stories happening here as it relates to the southern border of the United States. There are now children in northern Mexico who have died trying to make it into the United States. Stories from Lackland Air Force Base have indicated that 30% of the females, and we're talking about young girls, 10 years old, 11-year-old, 12, 30% of the females have been raped or abused trying to get here. There are stories of human trafficking. A lot of these children are being leased. The belief is in Central America, if you come with a child, you're more likely to be able to stay than if you come without a child. So there are children being leased in human trafficking violations. And all of this is happening because the President of the United States has told everybody that if you're a child and you come to the United States, you will not be deported. And at the same time, he refuses to enforce the southern border of the United States. He has created this crisis. Then he goes on national television and he says that it's the Republicans' fault because Republicans won't pass comprehensive immigration reform. I want to be clear. This has nothing to do with comprehensive immigration reform. This has everything to do with the president who refuses to enforce the law as it relates to the border of our country, number one. And number two, he advertises to the world that if you step foot on American soil, you become a fabric of our society and you can stay. That's what's happened here. The president will tell folks that the crime and the poverty in Central America, we're talking about El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, is what's causing this crisis. And I'm here to tell you, I'm a Navy pilot. I've spent a lot of time doing counter-drug missions down in Central and South America. I have flown in many missions from El Salvador myself. The crime and poverty is true, but it is not any worse now than it was 2 years ago when I was there. The only difference is that the president has advertised that if you come to the United States, you can stay. That's the difference.
Congressman, I know that
this is resulting in human suffering.
Congressman, we're running a little out on time here. We have to head for a break. May I ask you, I know that we got you just a little bit late. Can we ask if you could please stay through the break because we'd like to continue this conversation? Do you have time?
I'd be happy to.
Wonderful. Okay. Mario Lopez, I know you're also with us as well. Mario, I'm going to ask you to hold on, please, because we're going to take a break, come back on the other side. We want to bring you into the conversation as well with the congressman. You good to go?
I am.
Outstanding. Okay. So here's a story right here. We have a U.S. congressman who is joining us from Oklahoma, Jim Bridenstine, who was not allowed to go in and see what was happening on the ground. We're going to find out from him, Mario Lopez. We're going to move this discussion forward just a little bit more as we continue on MidPoint, where every day we question everything.
I've always seen No No on TV and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
No No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No No is better than ever. Introducing the new No No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of Thermicon tips, specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No No risk-free today.
I need to get myself one of these right now.
Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
I realized at that moment, these people really needed us. And I was going to make a difference, right here in my community.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
Passions on both sides of the immigration fight erupting tonight here in Marietta. Outside, it seems to be a crowd of mostly those supporting the undocumented immigrants. Meantime, inside, hundreds of residents from Marietta fighting to keep them out. Designed as a meeting between local officials and Marietta residents, the 750-person room was at capacity and quickly boiling over.
This is an invasion. Why is the National Guard not out there stopping them from coming in?
Let us continue our discussion now as let's go back and welcome in once again Congressman Jim Bridenstine from Oklahoma. We spoke to him earlier in the first segment of the show. Certainly what is happening in Marietta, California is something that congressmen and elected officials from all over the country are watching. Congressman, let me ask you though, you detailed for us what happened in your visit when Health and Human Services did not allow you to go in and see the children at the HHS facility at Fort Sill. Simple question then from the American people, in your opinion, were they trying to hide something, or was it simply a matter of fact that they just didn't have their act together and they were caught off guard by you being there?
Well, I think there's a couple of things here. The stories of human suffering that are a result of this policy of having an open border, and I want to be clear, you know, Secretary Napolitano, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, was on record telling members of Congress that the southern border is secure. My friend, it is not secure. When 10-year-olds can walk across it, as they are, streaming across now, it is not secure. I think what they are concerned with is that some of us will hear the stories of human suffering from these children who have been streaming across the border. As I said earlier, we're talking about down at Lackland Air Force Base, officials are saying that as many as 30% of the young girls there have been raped or abused. Children, of course, in northern Mexico have died trying to make it here. And of course, the human trafficking issue where children are being leased in order to gain access to this country. These are the stories, I think, that, that these policies have created this human suffering.
So and the question then, I guess, and I just want to be very clear from your side too then, that very clear then from your side you believe that they were simply trying to hide what's really going on at the facility?
Certainly these stories are not good for the administration.
With regard to all that now, have you been back in touch with the administration or someone at HHS? Have you been able to at least find a way or a time to go in again and have this inspection that you were denied?
Yes, so we were told to contact the legislative liaison for HHS and that they would schedule an appointment for July 21st. That is unacceptable. As a member of Congress, I have access to federal property, and that's what this is. We are working with legal counsel now, and certainly we're doing everything we can to make sure that I can visit that facility before July 21st. But yes, we're working on that right now.
Are you prepared? And I guess this is always the word that people think of anymore when it comes down to what happens in government, the word cover-up. Does that walk into this situation in any instance whatsoever?
Well, the key is and I think you correctly asked the question that all of us would like to know, which is what are they trying to hide? I don't blame the gentleman who said that I'm not allowed access. I don't blame him. He's following orders. The question is, where did those orders come from? How high do they go? Why is it that they don't want the transparency that this president, this was supposed to be the most transparent presidency in American history, if you remember the campaign rhetoric. Unfortunately, now you have members of Congress being denied access to federal property, and there are children behind that fence who have suffered on the way here, and these policies have created that suffering.
Congressman Jim Bridenstine from Oklahoma, we thank you so much for staying with us for a few minutes. We will be in touch again. We'll follow up and find out what happens if indeed you are allowed to go into one of these facilities, certainly the one at Fort Sill. Again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, let us now go to Mario Lopez. We had brought him in earlier in the show, president of the Hispanic Leadership Fund. Also joining us now for the few minutes that we have left, Jessica Vaughn, Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies. Jessica, it's our first chance to get to talk to you here this afternoon on this. We have heard from the congressman. We have heard from a number of people. There seems to be some sort of, and I loathe to use the word sometime, but the word cover-up comes in here. What is the administration trying to hide? Does it strike you the same way?
Only because of this congressman's experience, but also because they've ordered all Border Patrol agents to cease carrying their cell phones with them when they're on duty so that they can't take pictures of what's happening. They're telling the nonprofits that are getting grants to support the kids who are coming not to talk to the press. I mean, it is definitely a very secretive operation that they've turned it into, and I think the reason is because they understand that most Americans are very upset with what is happening. They want to focus the administration wants to focus public attention on the children, but in fact it's a lot of families and adults coming too, and people want to know, a straight answer on whether or not these people are going to be allowed to stay here, and the administration knows that its plan to allow as many people as possible to stay is not going to be politically popular.
All right, now here's a really simple question then, because you bring up a lot of the same issues that we have been talking about here for weeks. How does the administration continue to get away with this then? Quite frankly, that's what the American people want to know. If we're talking about people who can't be seen, things that aren't being done, people that aren't being stopped, Border Patrol that's not being given the money, how do they get away with it this often?
A couple of ways. First of all, the news media are very willing to carry a message to the public that is scripted by the White House. This fits in with their own view of immigration as a human right, and so they want to cover it as this. But the other way they get away with it is by not releasing information and controlling the discussion and putting on a show of enforcement, very carefully parsing their words, and pretending to get tough while really behind being released. But I think even, the news media are tiring of this and wanting answers and are getting to be a little bit disgruntled that the White House doesn't want to answer their question.
Mario, let me bring you in here on a different question here, because there is also, when it comes to answering a lot of questions here, I am hearing and have seen a number of interviews even from Hispanic Americans, people who are legal citizens here in America at certain border towns, where even they are saying, this has got to stop. It is not fair. Something has got to happen here. And then, of course, we see other reports where we see Hispanic Americans saying, no, 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 this is humanitarian. Let's make sure we bring everybody in. What is the reality in the Hispanic community as to how they feel about these Central American illegal refugees being brought here, while for the same instance I hear from many of them that those who are trying to immigrate legally are not being allowed in? Mario, the question's to you.
This last point that you brought up. Yeah, and you know, that last part is so important to this because of course this is a humanitarian crisis, and of course the feelings, you know, are all over the place in the Hispanic community as they are in the public at large. I mean, on the one hand, the president has created this issue and has been just derelict in his duties to not just to protect the border, but also in to work with Congress. We heard from the congressman earlier to provide transparency, to let people know what exactly is going on. And a big motivation for that is because they want to hide their own failures. And so they would rather this crisis continue and people keep suffering than to let people know just how badly their policies have failed the American public. And that's a real shame. They should really be ashamed of that, because it's quite troublesome. But to what I was talking about earlier, one of the important pieces that we have to have in order to really fix this issue once and for all is we have to fix our process of how to immigrate legally to the United States. It is currently a big government, bureaucratic nightmare to try to immigrate legally to the United States, and that cannot happen. Of course we need border security. Of course we need to handle the current crisis in a humanitarian way, because that's the kind of people, that's the kind of country that we are. But we also need to fix the legal immigration process so that these things don't continue to happen, because that is the future we're guaranteed unless we find a way to fix this legal immigration process. And that's something that I wish that population control groups like Jessica Vaughn's Center for Immigration Studies would really understand, because that's not what they're for, and it's a real shame.
Unfortunately, we are all out of time. Jessica, can you answer that back in 15 seconds?
Well, I think what's clear is that the public wants to see the laws we have enforced first. And when they have confidence that that is actually happening, then we can talk about all of the other problems in our legal immigration system and how to fix that. But first, enforce the law. Let's have enforcement in the interior and at the border.
All right, Jessica Vaughn, Mario Lopez, thank you so much for being with us. We will follow this story up again right here on MidPoint, where every single day, Monday through Friday, we question everything.
Can you really lose weight without changing your lifestyle? LaToya Q did. In fact, in just 5 months, she lost nearly 2 pounds a week without changing the way she dieted or exercised.
I lost 36 pounds and I went down 4 dress sizes.
Like so many people, LaToya didn't want to change her lifestyle to lose weight. Instead, she decided to take America's #1 selling diet pill, Lipozene.
People kept asking me, you have to be exercising. You're really, you just don't want to tell us what you're doing. I was like, no, I don't have time to go to a gym. I just took Lipozene and I started seeing results immediately.
Lipozene has now sold over 20 million bottles. That's because Lipozene really works. And to prove it, we conducted our very own double-blind clinical study where all we asked people to do was take Lipozene. And by just taking Lipozene, they lost weight. But here's where it gets really exciting. These people were not asked to change their diet or exercise. And 78% of the weight they lost was pure body fat. Not water, fat.
I'm almost back down to my high school weight, so I'm really loving that.
And for even faster results, you can try Lipozene with moderate diet and exercise.
Feels great to have a six-pack. I didn't think I would have it at my age.
I lost 7 inches off of my waist and I lost 2 dress sizes, and I feel amazing.
Now you can join the millions of people who have lost weight with Lipozene by trying it risk-free for only $29.95. Lipozene is guaranteed to help you lose weight or your money back.
Lipozene, it works.
But wait, Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll double your order absolutely free. Plus, we'll even pay for your shipping. But that's still not all. To celebrate selling over 20 million bottles of Lipozene, the company will give you a free bottle of Metabo Up with your order. That's a $20 value free. But you must call right now because this exclusive free offer is not available in stores.
Call 1-800-509-9436. That's 1-800-509-9436.
I was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning because my back hurt so bad.
The Sleep Number bed conforms to you. Wake up in the morning with no back pain.
Do you toss and turn, wake up with back pain? If so, call us now.
You'll learn how the Sleep Number bed helps relieve back pain by allowing you to adjust the firmness and support to conform to your body for a more proper spinal alignment.
Just look at this research. 93% of participants experienced back pain relief. Plus, it's a great value because it costs about the same as an innerspring, yet lasts twice as long. So if you want to sleep better or find relief for your bad back, call now.
Call 1-800-976-7120 for your free information kit with brochure, price list, and models. Call now and we'll include a free $50 savings card. Call 1-800-976-7120 now for your free information and this free $50 savings card. Call now.
Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome to this Newsmax Now update. We're continuing to focus some attention on Hurricane Arthur. The storm right now is located about 150 miles southwest of Cape Fear, North Carolina. You can see it right there along the South Carolina-North Carolina border and making its way along the eastern seaboard. A hurricane warning extends from the Virginia-North Carolina border down to Surf City, North Carolina, including the Outer Banks. And in Philadelphia, an investigation is underway right now into a fire involving 2 tour buses reportedly belonging to the cruise for rock bands Styx and Foreigner. The video shows the fire starting in one bus but then moved to another one of the buses. There were no reports of injuries on the scene. The bands are still scheduled to perform together. That fire in one of those tour buses. More coming up in 30 minutes. We'll be right back after this from Ed.
Look, today it seems so simple. Bring out the bulldozers and build a canal. But when that first spade of earth was turned in Panama to build a canal connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, no one could have imagined the historic nature of not just the building, but how it would change the world. That's the focus of this American moment.
It took 34 years to build, but on August 15th, 1914, the Panama Canal was officially opened for business and was quickly crowned one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. The 51-mile-long and 10-mile-wide canal was originally begun by the French, but abandoned after 9 years and the loss of over 20,000 of their workers from disease-infected jungles. President Theodore Roosevelt believed the completion of the canal was essential to American security and prosperity, so he negotiated with the French to purchase the canal's properties and dredging equipment. But when negotiations with Colombia over a canal treaty broke down, Roosevelt backed a local bloodless revolution that lasted only a few hours. And on November 3rd, 1903, the nation of Panama was born. With the opening of the Panama Canal, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans were joined, reducing a ship's journey from New York to San Francisco by 9,000 miles. Roosevelt's vision made the canal a reality, and the feat helped make America a world power. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
All right, the Newsmax mothership. Hospitals in America under siege, tougher to fly through foreign airports, and those pesky job numbers are out. Let's welcome in managing editor Tim Colley for a peek inside the headlines. Tim, thanks for joining us today, as always, my friend.
Hey, how are you?
Excellent, sir. Let's go ahead and start out. Brand new lead, as a matter of fact. Last time I looked, Rasmussen poll. Voters support Hobby Lobby religious exemption by 10-point margin. That is a wide margin, and that poll certainly talks a lot about what the Supreme Court did this week.
Yeah, near majority, 49% exactly support it. 47% in general support a religious exemption or not forcing companies to cover contraception. So it's a public or a significant portion, half the country, basically siding with the Supreme Court decision.
So the Supreme Court decision. So the Supreme Court puts Hobby Lobby in the news there. Again, now we have another one. Ron Paul saying that hospitals are under siege in the immigration crisis. Now, this is something that we've talked about every now and then. We talk from somebody who's on the ground at the different places along the southwestern border, and we hear from the communities themselves. Certainly what we've seen in Marietta, California, talks to people who are just concerned about their communities changing. But if you think about it, we're already at a situation in this country where it's tough to get a doctor. So now you have the hospitals themselves must be overloaded by the tremendous crush of people that they're getting.
Yeah, these are children. I mean, a lot of them are not immunized. There's some very real health concerns. I mean, for the kids' safety as well as for the population down there. And, I've been to a lot of these border towns. They have one hospital at best, sometimes a clinic. If they get overwhelmed by dozens of children in any individual town, you've got a very serious problem.
Let's go ahead and talk about jobs now, because this is certainly something that we've been watching today, the news. The Dow topped 17,000 for the first time on a strong jobs report. If you want to look at the optimistic side of things, you can certainly say that it's good news. Then again, there are also people who will say, well, we hear the Dow hit 17,000, but things aren't exactly all rosy yet here in America.
No, 6% unemployment is still 6% unemployment. There's a lot of, improvement to go. And a lot of this, a disproportionate amount of this is actually young people who come out of college trying to make their way in the workforce and are just not finding the job, even with college education.
Let's also look then at another poll that's sitting here, which I found interesting on the website today. This is a Pew poll. Americans believe U.S. standing in the world is falling. I don't think that's much of a shock to people who've been following what's been happening in Washington.
No, you've got Ukraine, you've got what's going on down at the border, you've got the Middle East. I mean, everywhere the news seems to be bad in terms of American foreign policy. I mean, you would really struggle to find sort of a good news story at this time.
Right under that is a story that came to us from Politico, but it's interesting. It's a Politico commentary. Strong case for Mitt Romney making a 2016 White House run. I got to tell you, Tim, that will come as a surprise to people, because there are those out there, political experts, who will say, don't go backward, you need to go forward at this point. So it's interesting how the case is being made ever so quietly.
Yeah, we had the poll yesterday. Obama, worst president since World War II, Reagan best. But in that poll, there was a good 45% who said they regretted Romney not becoming president in 2012. You've got that. You've got his famous remarks about Russia being an enemy during the campaign that he got poo-pooed for, but now look like, in hindsight, they were actually very forward-looking. You've got his warnings on the Middle East. Things are breaking his way right now, news-wise. He's a hot commodity. He recently was in New Hampshire stumping for Scott Brown, so he's in demand.
Interesting if it stays that way. That's the Newsmax.com website. Tim, always a pleasure, my friend. Have a great 4th of July weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.
You too, Ed. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy. There's a new 5-year plan by the latest band of Middle Eastern killers. But then there is more fact than hyperbole. There's a lot going on in the Middle East, a lot going on here on MidPoint, where every day we question everything.
I won this 55-inch TV for less than $30 on DealDash.com.
I got this $1,200 computer for $100.71.
These aren't actors, they're real people who got real savings at DealDash.com, the fair and honest bidding site.
On Deal Dash, I got this $349 mixer for less than $25.
iPads sell for as little as $5, laptops for $10, and professional cameras for as little as $20.
I won this iPhone for $8.48 at DealDash.com.
I got all this for less than $50 on DealDash.com.
Try Deal Dash today. If you don't win, get your money back. But hurry, everything must go. Go to DealDash.com now to start bidding.
In my first 4 months on Deal Dash, I won 104 auctions.
And shipping is always free.
Visit DealDash.com and start bidding today.
Meet John and Nancy. They've spent their lives working hard and saving money, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But unfortunately, all that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. Then one day, John and Nancy picked up a free copy of Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. This book revealed 24 little-known investments that put them back on track to a happy and secure retirement. Get your free copy of Powerful Secrets at myfinancialage.org.
I live alone, so when I slipped and fell in the kitchen last month and couldn't get to a phone, that's when I knew I needed Life Alert. With just one press of this button, I'm connected to the Life Alert Center, where I can get the help I need, even when I cannot reach a phone. With Life Alert, I'm never alone.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 800-961-5220. That's 800-961-5220. Call 800-961-5220.
My name is Ed Berliner. I'm a host and a news anchor here at Newsmax. This country is desperate for a new voice to speak to that new generation that wants to know it all. Don't give me just half the story. Don't give me a piece of it. Let me get it all. Every single day, when people come to Newsmax, they're going to get an entire story. A new voice, a new generation. Newsmax TV.
The problem here is not that the Iraqi government doesn't have troops and firepower. The Iraqi government has, between security forces and army, something in the range of 650,000 soldiers or people under arms. It has a defense budget around $17 billion. It is trying to defend itself against a few thousand lightly armed insurgents. The problem is that the insurgents have the sympathy of the public in these areas, in these Sunni areas. We've seen this movie before, Jake. This was what happened in 2007, 2008. And with 140,000 troops, General Petraeus still said the only solution was political. You had to reach out to the Sunnis, to the tribes. You had to divide the Sunnis so that they stopped supporting, groups like Al-Qaeda. That's the same solution here. And if Prime Minister Maliki isn't willing to do it, sending in a few hundred more American advisors or a few thousand more American troops is certainly not going to solve the problem.
Welcome to yet another Middle Eastern free-for-all. Saudi Arabia has decided the time is right to get their military involved with the Iraq crisis. Somalia doesn't want to be left out. And you better believe Israel is watching everything with an eye toward what it means to their security in the not-too-distant future. Welcome to MidPoint. From the Washington Times, foreign policy and security analyst Fred Gidrick joins us today on the show. Fred, thanks so much for being here.
Delighted to be with you.
Fred, there was a couple of interesting things we just heard in that soundbite that I wanted to get your take on right away. Noting the sympathy of the public, is that something that perhaps we are underestimating in Iraq when it comes down to ISIS and their movement towards Baghdad? Is that, quite frankly, there is a public sympathy for this group and a hatred of the government that is there right now, that simply no matter what we try to do, no matter how we handle it, no matter what we think we can do, it simply is not going to change?
Well, sectarian factions, the Kurd Sunnis and Shiites. The Shiites are the most populous group of the three, and they happen to control the government. So when you say the people are on the side of the insurgents, I would say that's true with regard to the Sunni population, which consists of Saddam Hussein's former Ba'athist people, as well as the Al-Qaeda core from not only Iraq and those fighting in Syria, but neighboring countries and North African countries. They tucked into Syria to fight the Assad regime and then spilled over in the border in Iraq and took 1/3 of the country in a short span of time. Really something that should concern the Obama administration and the free world, for that matter.
You mentioned the Saddam Hussein core. Is it possible? Of course it's possible, but did we as America, did everybody overlook and perhaps underestimate that years later, after Saddam Hussein was dead, that you would still have that political faction that he was involved in that would still be powerful, or at least still trying to gain power? It seems as if indeed we underestimated this.
We did underestimate it, but I don't think they're the predominant force on the Sunni side. I think the jihadists are. Al-Baghdadi, who is determined to form a caliph, and he's in the army of 10,000 jihadists, and they ruthless, backgarden, and it looks like the Shiite government of Iraq is no match for them, and that's a big concern. The only group that seems to be able to hold off the Sunni jihadis are the Kurds, the Peshmerga.
It doesn't make a difference how many times we look at the numbers, and we're going to show our audience some numbers here right now about the approval or disapproval rating of the way Barack Obama is handling the situation in Iraq. 37% of the people approve, 55% of the people who were polled disapprove. This is a Quinnipiac University poll. And as we look at these numbers here and the way that the president is handling the situation in Iraq, I go back to what was also said in that soundbite, where it talks to reaching out to the tribes, which indeed is something that the Obama administration and others have pushed forward for many years. Reach out to the tribes, bring them in. Fred, from your opinion, looking at foreign policy as you do, is it simply just, can we put this away and put this discussion to bed forever, that there is simply no way to reach out to these tribes at any instance and get them all together and sit down at the same time to come to some sort of conclusion?
Well, the Shia and Sunnis have been fighting with each other for centuries. We're not going to, in the short run, ever solve that problem. I think what worked for Petraeus during the surge is money going in the hands of tribal leaders from the Sunni section of the country, and that seemed to help in defeating the Al-Qaeda element in Iraq. But when President Obama decided to remove all U.S. troops and made a statement when he did it that we're leaving behind a sovereign, stable, and self-reliant Iraq, that was delusional. Anything but sovereign cannot protect its borders or control one-third of the country. It's certainly not stable with all the bombing and fighting going on, and it's not self-reliant. It's counting on the Russians, the Iranians, and begging for the U.S. to come in and help against the Sunnis. The last thing we want to do is be on the side of the Iranians fighting against the Sunni jihadists. We're in a real pickle because we removed American troops. The question is whether or not the Obama administration is up to resolving this problem and protecting American interests in the heart of the Arab world. And I don't think they're not. They are, based on the decisions they've made over the past few years.
Fred, I only have about 30, 40 seconds left. What do we take from the fact that we now know that the United States has disclosed that they have about 120 troops working in Somalia right now, and apparently it has been there for some time. Certainly it is all part of what's going on. What are we to take from those troops being there?
In Somalia?
Yes.
Somalia, we also sent them in Nigeria to try to help find the girls that were kidnapped a few months ago by Boko Haram, another Al-Qaeda offshoot. In fact, they're considered the Nigerian Taliban. We also have them in other countries. But if you look across the African landscape, that is the last place we will be involved in land warfare or any type of warfare. It's very complicated. I wrote several items on Libya, Mali, Nigeria, and general Arab world, and published by the Washington Times for your listeners to refer to. But it's a real mess. The whole world's exploding before us, and we have a president who doesn't seem to be up to the task of at least coming.
There you go. The last place we want to get involved. That is certainly a good way to put it. Fred, we're all out of time, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll do it again. Fred Gedrick from the Washington Times, and we'll be back right here on MidPoint, where we question everything.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker. today.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Call our toll-free number or visit our website. A free idea kit and DVD will be sent to your home so you can discover all the benefits of owning your own pool. Compared to traditional pools, endless pools are simple to install, easy to maintain, and economical to run. Our precision-engineered pools enable you to swim or exercise against a smooth current that adjusts to any speed and ability. Endless pools are perfect for year-round health and fitness, relaxation, and family fun. Our free idea kit and DVD will show you how easy it is for the whole family to enjoy a pool right in your backyard or home. An endless pool or an endless pool swim spa can become a showplace for your home. Call our toll-free number or visit the website to find out more about endless pools. The free idea kit will show you just how easy it is to be able to swim at home.
Victims of mesothelioma and lung cancer caused by asbestos and their families may be entitled to receive a cash award from over $18 billion in asbestos trust funds now available. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer caused by asbestos, call the number on your screen now. Even if a loved one has passed due to mesothelioma or asbestos lung cancer, you may still be entitled to a cash award. Mesothelioma is a rare cancer caused by exposure to asbestos. Many victims were in the Navy, shipyards, or power plants, or worked in the construction, plumbing, insulation, or automotive trades. Many more were exposed in and around their homes. For nearly 30 years, we have successfully helped thousands of victims and families get the financial compensation they deserve. Time is limited. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer caused by exposure to asbestos,
call 1-800-290-4243 now.
Life can hit you with the unexpected. Forcing you to make difficult decisions. Leaving you feeling helpless. You don't have to lose your home. It's time to take control. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling can help. The NFCC is a nonprofit organization that has been providing quality financial counseling and education for 60 years. Our national network of community-based member agencies have helped millions of consumers with foreclosure prevention. Seek advice from our certified housing counselors today. Call us or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. Real solutions for real people.
The president is like a lone tree in an empty field. He leans whichever way the wind is blowing, and right now Raymond Tusk blows far too strong from the west. One heartbeat away from the presidency, not a single vote cast in my name. Democracy is so overrated. When a man like Raymond Tusk gets involved in state diplomacy, you can be sure he's not after the Nobel Peace Prize. He's an opportunist, but so am I. Maybe this is my opportunity to loosen his grip on the president. In Gaffney, we had our own brand of diplomacy. Shake with your right hand, but hold a rock in your left.
There is no more perfect politician than Frank Underwood. No one more well-versed in the ways of Washington. No one more devious in the ways one human being can manipulate and morally massacre another. No one more wise in the ways of climbing the power tower to the very top, and then balancing on the razor blade of deceit, ensuring there is yet another life to live, supposedly serving at the whim of the people. At least that's what they say. Would that the cable series House of Cards was just that, nothing more than the fanciful creation of a brilliant and very likely intelligently twisted dramatic mind. But it's not. It is so much more. It is perhaps a primer for the ways of bending and shaping the truth that Washington, D.C. was figuratively built on. And in some cases, its homicidal take on gaining and holding on to power may be weak-kneed compared to what goes on in what we'd like to think is the real world.
Paved with hypocrisy and casualties. Never regret.
In Mississippi recently, there was a runoff election held. Senator Thad Cochran narrowly defeated Tea Party candidate Chris McDaniel. It didn't take long for McDaniel and his followers to cry a rigged election, an opponent who they claimed used and abused the African-American vote to gain victory, a scurrilous political veteran who jobbed the system to his advantage in order to win yet another chance at glory. They might be right. All the facts are yet to see the light of day, and it's not as if this story is going to melt away anytime soon. However, it may just be that if indeed Senator Cochran is guilty of some dirty electioneering tricks, he may not be the only dark side scurrying from the Mississippi shadows. Charles Johnson is a former Daily Caller blogger who runs what he would like you to believe is a, as the website banner claims, news site that is independent, unbiased, and unafraid. The site reported that Reverend Stevie Fielder claimed a man representing Cochran promised to pay him $16,000 to offer black voters $15 each to vote for Cochran. In simpler terms, buying votes. Reverend Fielder said the man who claimed he was from the Cochran campaign tried to convince him that McDaniel was a racist. End result, the Reverend claims he never got nor took a dime and never agreed to any such deal. Now an investigation conducted by several regional broadcast outlets in the area and the newspaper, the Clarion Ledger, has found that the man who offered to pay the Reverend, listen closely, the man who offered to pay the Reverend didn't work for Cochran at all. It was Charles Johnson, the blogger and the person who claims to have broken the story. He, they have found, and he has admitted, offered the payment. In cleaner terms, the phony reporter who ballyhooed on a number of partisan websites as being fact originated the story himself, offered to bribe someone who apparently never took a dime. There is no record of any money changing hands. And when asked if what he was doing was ethical, Johnson claimed it was just another example of checkbook journalism. In his words, just like when David Frost paid Richard Nixon for an interview. Well, Cochran's campaign has filed a lawsuit against Johnson, who is last seen puffing up his narcissistic chest and claiming he won't be intimidated. Heard anyone who reported this story as fact, bringing forth this side of the story? Crickets? Anyone? Nature abhors a vacuum. Real reporters abhor frauds. But Frank Underwood, come on. He'd be mighty proud. He would always admire someone who enjoys, not only enjoys, but plans to deal from the bottom of the deck. And that is telling it like it is. You get a chance to tell us what you think, we respond. Because every day, right here on the Newsmax TV network, this is MidPoint, and on MidPoint, we question everything.
Are you feeling tired, run down, low on energy? Well, you could be just like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, now there's hope to change all of that. Introducing Actilin. Actilin is a premium nutritional supplement designed to support optimal thyroid function. Actilin has 17 powerful ingredients that support adrenal health, thyroid function, energy, and your immune system. Actilin was formulated by the renowned holistic practitioner, Dr. David Brownstein. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. You pay only for shipping and handling. Act right now and get Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. Get Actilin and the special report. Sign up today at getactilin.com. That's getactilin.com. Or call us at the number below.
Attention parents and grandparents of young children. Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable Grow-Up Plan. The Grow-Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance protection now, then doubles automatically to $20,000 later at no extra cost. Free information will be sent to parents and grandparents who call now. Help give your child a head start for just pennies a day. Don't wait. Call now for free information.
Call 1-800-417-7939 or go to growupplan.com.
A final expense insurance plan pays cash to your family for final and all other expenses. Final and all other expenses. If you're unable to purchase life insurance due to a pre-existing or current medical condition, call us right now for information and a free consultation. Rates will never increase, the policy cannot be canceled, and there are no restrictions on how your beneficiaries can use the money.
Call 1-800-364-1813. 1-800-364-1813.
It's time to cut the wheat from the chaff with regard to climate change. More ice in the north, yet we're told it couldn't be melting faster. Hurricanes forming in the strangest of ways. Record drought, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Like you, we're tired of the rhetoric and want some real answers. While we're so focused on another Middle East disaster, we may have forgotten to take a look towards China. For the Chinese are quietly building their war machine while they're in the process of building land where none exists. And did Major League Baseball actually help Alex Rodriguez cheat? Ooh, shocker. It's all on deck as we kick to the second stanza of the fastest 3 hours of news, where we question everything for Thursday, July 3rd, 2014. We thought about it, but our daily trip to Outland will not bring us video of John Bachman and his surfing expertise, although we are trying to effort as we speak. It will bring us to a special place and special people, politicians who believe in the power of forgiveness and really bad crying on cue video. On cue at the moment, though, Surf's Up. John Bachman deals another edition of Newsmax Now.
There's also video out there, Ed, of me doing what the governor of North Carolina is telling reporters not to do, and that's stand out in this hurricane that's approaching every minute of the day. The storm is located right now about 150 miles southwest of Cape Fear, North Carolina, and moving north-northeast. The hurricane warning extends all the way from the Virginia-North Carolina border down to the border of North Carolina and South Carolina, but you can see the storm where it's located right now. Some of those rain bands coming ashore right there on Cape Fear. And on the border between North Carolina and South Carolina. The governor also urging people to take caution. Mandatory evacuation orders have been in place for the Outer Banks. We'll keep our eye on the storm and keep you updated throughout the day here on Newsmax TV. Moving ahead now to our next story. The fighting in Iraq is putting a strain on the U.S. and other countries. The U.S. administration is calling for tighter security measures now at foreign airports that have direct flights into the United States. They're concerned because terrorists are allegedly developing bombs designed to avoid these specific types of airport screenings. According to a counterterrorism official, U.S. intelligence has picked up indications that bomb makers in Yemen tied to al-Qaeda have traveled into Syria to link up with an al-Qaeda affiliate there, and that's where the concern started. So, moving on now back to U.S. politics. Meanwhile, Mitt Romney says he won't be a candidate in 2016, but he's still up there in New Hampshire talking on someone else's behalf, and that person is Scott Brown, a former senator from Massachusetts. Romney there endorsing Scott Brown as he races, or has entered that race there against Jeanne Shaheen in the Granite State. Romney calling on voters to punish President Obama by giving Republicans the Senate this fall. In front of hundreds of supporters, Romney endorsed Scott Brown. This is the same place where Mitt Romney announced that he was running for president back in 2012. We're back with more news here in 30 minutes. I'm John Bachman. This has been a Newsmax Now update.
When I think about the array of global global threats, think about this. Terrorism, epidemics, poverty, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, all challenges that know no borders. The reality is that climate change ranks right up there with every single one of them.
Okay, let's be completely honest for a moment when it comes to climate change. We are bombarded every single day with news and claims from every side of the issue. It is possible to, in one news program, hear stories on how it's the fault of humans and we should be ashamed of ourselves for not doing more. And minutes later, how this is Mother Nature basically shaking the human race off her shoulders and going about her business as she has done for millions of years. And in the end, we are all exasperated because we can never seem to get real, hardcore facts and conclusions, if there are such things, when we're dealing with that tempestuous Lady Nature. All right, let's dig in here. Let's welcome to MidPoint an expert in climate modeling and the head of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies. In other words, someone who speaks from the scientific side of things and understands how it all fits together. Dr. Gavin Schmidt joins us. Dr. Schmidt, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Is the simplest way to start this argument to say that, yes, humans have partially a responsibility here, because I think what we hear too often is it's human-caused global warming. We have a responsibility in it, but it is not entirely the fault of the human race. Is that a good place to start this argument every time?
So, actually, no. I think what you have to do is you start with the fact that climate has changed over the history of the planet many, many times from many, many different causes. But we can say much more about what's going on right now because we have far more data about what's been happening in the last 50, 60 years than we had for, some random change 20 million years ago. So we have a much better understanding of what's going on right now than we do for some of those earlier changes. Okay. But we acknowledge that there's lots of things that can cause climate to change. Okay. When it comes to just what's been going on in the recent decades, we can actually do a pretty good job on attribution of the global mean changes. So that's the average over the whole planet to human activity, and that's mostly related to carbon dioxide.
Okay, so I need to make that point again, but let's make sure that we're here because, again, here comes all the science, and this is what everybody always gets confused about. Those who say that it is man's fault, it is the human being's fault that we are in the situation that we're in right now. But
we have to be very careful about what it is that you mean there.
Exactly. Thank you.
Are you talking about a specific weather event? Well, no. So that isn't all man's fault. It's not like Hurricane Arthur today. Well, that's not man's fault in and of itself, right? If we can detect a change in hurricane statistics, perhaps, or we can attribute changes in the sea surface temperature, changes in the Atlantic, well, we do have a role for humans there. But the fact that there is a hurricane, the fact that there was a big storm in New York yesterday, those are part of the weather system, and we have to be very clear that the weather and the climate are two different things. The climate changes that we can attribute to human activity, those are things that we are looking at, on the large scale in averages, in statistics. There we can get rid of, some of the weather noise and make a claim. But any specific weather event, it's much harder to do that. And that's very much at the cutting edge of our understanding right now.
I have a fear. I hear a siren in the background. I'm hoping that is not Al Gore, who perhaps is trying to have you arrested for what you're saying at this point. I'm very fearful that he could be breaking through the door at any moment. But I
think we're safe.
I certainly hope so. But let's talk about this role for humans, okay? If you look at what this is, and we have a graphic here that I think kind of makes it very simple for people to understand. 80% of the total fossil fuels consumed each year are right here in America. Whether that's true, whether
that's not true.
Okay, then let's stop. I'm going to stop right there because this is where we get, and this is where it always becomes fun to discuss. There are those who say it's 80%. What's the real number?
So the emissions from the U.S. are emissions of carbon dioxide, and then there's a few other gases that go into that as well. But it's about 20% of the total. China has just exceeded that. They're about 25%, though historically the U.S. has been doing this for longer. Europe, Japan, Russia make up the bulk of the rest, with India kind of coming along behind them.
That is simply the point that I think needs to be made. And many people are trying to make it. If the United States, and certainly there are people saying the United States, we need to clean up our act, we need to do whatever we can. But there are those experts who say that U.S. action alone would be completely ineffective in truly changing and helping to change the climate of the planet to make it better. True or false?
So anybody's actions on their own make no difference at all. But the only way that we're going to have a situation where we stabilize carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere is that it has to be done by all the major emitters. Now, how you get to that point, if everybody says, well, our role is so small we don't need to do anything, then nobody does anything, and you end up with a tragedy of the commons where, you end up with everybody having fished, taken all the fish and nothing's left for anybody. Now, getting to a point where everybody is doing their fair share, well, that's very much a political negotiation that has to happen at the state level, at different institutions, and that's really not what I'm going to talk about today. But we can certainly talk about the science of what is going to be required, and to stabilize carbon dioxide emissions needs a cut roughly of about 70%, and then it needs to get even larger as time goes on. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, right? But it does. The longer that we don't do this, the larger the climate changes that we're building up for the system are going to be. And we're already in a situation where we're seeing large mass losses from the ice sheets. We're seeing increasing levels of sea level rise. We're seeing very dramatic warming in the Arctic and the loss of Arctic sea ice. Less of an effect in the south, though we can discuss what's going on in Antarctica as well. And we're seeing, increases in heat content in the ocean. We're seeing changes in sea surface temperatures, changes in moisture in the atmosphere, and all of those things are affecting the climate even now as we speak.
All right, I'm going to talk about the ice here for a minute. You brought us right here, and here's a number of reports. A few minutes that we have left. I'm seeing headlines right now in front of me. Whaling logbooks reveal depth of Arctic ice loss. Sea ice melt moderate in early June, but rapid at end of July. Shrinking ice. And then there are other reports coming out saying, wait a minute, there's more ice now than there has been in the last 20, 30, 40 years. It's building ice at a dramatic rate. Here we have a population that is looking at all of these reports. One says the ice is going away. Another says the ice is building up. Seriously, doctor, which one can we believe?
So, if I can tell people one thing is don't believe what you read in headlines. You have to look into what people are actually talking about. There's some great data sources out there. The National Sea and Ice Data Center has great graphics and data on Antarctic sea ice and Arctic sea ice, where you can look at what the anomalies are, you can look at the trends, you can download the data for yourself. The situation is complicated, right? So in the Arctic, we're seeing losses of ice in every month, in every season that are getting very dramatic, things that we haven't seen in perhaps thousands of years. In Antarctica, things are complicated because of the ozone hole. That's another man-made issue that's changing the winds around Antarctica. That's having an effect on the sea ice. But we are seeing slight increases in sea ice there, though it's kind of regional. There's some places where it's going down a lot, other places where it's increasing a little. And that's a real puzzle for us. Scientists love a puzzle. And when you see something like that that seems anomalous, that seems like you're not expecting it, that is that's the cue for scientists to get all excited and start examining that much more closely. And Antarctica is a tough place to work. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go down there. I was lucky enough to go about 10 years ago, and it's a fascinating place, but it's also a very complicated place, and we don't have enough real information of what's going on everywhere around there to be able to give you a really good explanation for what's going on. We've been looking at the Arctic more closely because it's closer to us. It's easier to work there. And we've been able to say more about what's going on there. That kind of asymmetry between the hemispheres is very actually unfortunate, but it's something that we're at NASA, we're spending a lot of time trying to examine exactly what's going on, not just to the sea ice, but also the ice sheet. That's the ice on the land of Antarctica. And there we can see that there's actually increased melting at the same time that you've got increased sea ice right next to it.
Okay, I only have about 30 seconds left, and I need a really good answer. Here's the question. America, people want to know, how much of what's going on is man-made? How much of it is Mother Nature?
For the global mean temperature, almost all of the rise is man-made. For weather events, it depends. It can be anywhere between 0 and 100.
How long do we have as a species in order to take care of something here before it really becomes disastrous?
The longer that we leave it, the longer that we keep increasing carbon dioxide, the bigger the impact is going to be. I don't think there's ever going to be one day where it flips from being benign to catastrophic. It's just that the impacts are going to get larger and larger and larger the longer we leave it.
So your best information here to people is, once again, do not believe the headlines, read for the details, listen for them, and understand that everybody has a point in taking care of things, but it's not all one fault in one place all the time, right?
That's a reasonable.
There you go. Okay, reasonable. I finally got to reasonable. That's perfect. Dr. Gavin Schmidt, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We absolutely will do this again.
I look forward to it.
All right, take care. Happy 4th of July, by the way, too.
You too.
All right, so there it is. Reasonableness. If it's a word, it works. MidPoint continues, where we question everything.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
To find out more, call 800-263-4151. That's 800-263-4151.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time for Leakender 2000. It fixes any leak fast, no matter what's leaking. Just spray it with Leakender 2000, and in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll cut this garden hose with a knife, then shut off the water and spray on Leakender 2000. Minutes later, the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed. Leakender 2000 is a unique compound that fills and seals any crack or separation as it hardens. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leakender 2000 stops all those leaks, and it's yours for only $14.95. Call now and we'll double your order. We'll send you this giant-sized can at no extra charge. Order now.
To order, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-873-2700 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-873-2700.
If you're one of the 15 million Americans with food allergies, you might feel anxious about dining out, but you don't have to be. Visit safefair.org for more information and resources to help you enjoy a safer restaurant experience.
A public service message from Food Allergy Research and Education.
I'd like to also express hope that the United States can hold an objective view on the issues in the South China and East China Seas.
Since the arrival of the Chinese oil rig in waters near the disputed Paracel Islands earlier this month, Beijing and Hanoi have each sent vessels to surround it. Anti-Chinese protests in southern Vietnam, which erupted Tuesday, spread north, and the foreign ministry there has confirmed 1 death from the clashes.
There was China, that tiny little country nestled in the Far East that we all know has the best interests of America at heart, if not their hands all over our currency and debt, of course. Hey, the Chinese quite often do things quietly, as if not to draw much attention to what they're doing, which in this case is a classic land grab, even if there's no land to grab. Welcome back to MidPoint. Retired CIA Operations Officer and President at Orion Strategic Service, Charles Faddis joins us. Charles, thanks so much for being here today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
This is a fascinating story. As I noted, the Chinese like to do things very quietly, not to really draw a lot of attention to themselves. But in the South China Sea, they are attempting to build land. Tell us a little bit about this and why, because you have to believe right away that there has to be something militarily involved here if the Chinese are doing it.
Right. So the Chinese have staked out a claim saying that basically virtually all of South China Sea belongs to them, which is historically unsupportable. And as you've noted, you're talking about a body of water. So what they've done now is they have started building islands, which they are declaring Chinese territory and on which they are putting military installations.
All right, let's look at that from a military basis now. How strategic are these? Where are these in relation, I guess, to other countries, and what, in your opinion, would they be immediately used for?
So the South China Sea basically extends south from China to Indonesia, west to Vietnam, east to the Philippines, speaking in rough terms. What's the big issue? The big issue is that there are immense oil and natural gas reserves under the South China Sea. And by turning this into Chinese territory, the Chinese have effectively just grabbed all of that oil and natural gas for themselves.
Is it fair to say that the Chinese, though, are a government that if the United States gets involved and says, as they have, we'd like you to reconsider this, that the Chinese pretty much will thumb their nose at the Americans and say, have a nice day?
Yeah, I mean, we have expressed, not particularly strongly, but we have said on numerous occasions that we don't agree with this, and they've effectively told us to mind our own business and continued. This project they have underway to build islands is huge. I mean, they have these giant vacuum dredges out there sucking up the bottom of the ocean and spraying it up onto coral reefs and building islands all over the place in the South China Sea.
Is it their territory? If you were to look at a map, and again, here we're talking about ocean. I know we're just talking about water, but technically, map-wise, is this their territory?
No. I mean, the thing is that they have no historical claim upon which to rest at all. I mean, they have advanced them, and they're completely unsupported historically, and nobody else recognizes them.
So then, why are they allowed to get away with it? That would be the initial question.
Well, the first reason is because the immediate neighboring nations obviously are all militarily inferior, and none of them want to get into a shooting war with the Chinese. And we have done nothing of any effect to stop them. In fact, ironically, we just invited the Chinese to participate in what's called RIMPAC, which is our largest annual naval exercise in the Pacific Ocean. So while all this is going on, we have Chinese ships operating with American ships in the Pacific Ocean, which you've got to imagine sends an interesting message to people like the Filipinos.
Is this sort of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, though, that the Americans kind of give the Chinese because we are so deeply in debt to them in so many ways? Let's just talk financial and start right there, that we are willing to let them get away with a few things that might not seem to be a big deal to us. Might be big to others, but certainly is not a big deal to us.
Well, I don't know if it extends to that level, but certainly the fact that we have gotten ourselves in bed with them economically to the extent we have means that any major confrontation with them is going to have huge consequences, and therefore raises the threshold on our side and makes us that much more reluctant to rock the boat.
What does this mean to Vietnam? Because we let off with a segment right here that talked about the tensions that are going on here. How is this going to exacerbate things?
Well, for the Vietnamese, for the Filipinos, for everybody, effectively, I think the way they feel right now is they're completely on their own. And the Chinese are not being subtle. They're not just building islands. I mean, they have boarded other countries' ships. They have in the past fired on other countries' ships. I mean, this is, you know, they have made very clear that if you don't get out of the way, you're going to get hurt. So the Vietnamese have to tread very carefully.
Would you have any doubt then that the islands that they're building here are going to be used militarily, that there will be some sort of, whether it be ships, whether it be dockage facilities, or whether it be some sort of missile facilities here? What's the end game?
Well, first of all, they are already building military bases on some of these islands, so that's already happened. But one of the islands that is sort of, if you will, the largest project, they have publicly proclaimed in China, they have described it as a super aircraft carrier. So they have expressly told the entire world that the purpose is to put military aircraft on this so they can control the South China Sea.
The interesting thing I saw recently, too, was that China, their leader went to South Korea and decided not to go to North Korea. There seems Chinese would have normally sent someone to North Korea. The leader would have been there, perhaps first. Is this really a snub? But what's happening here between China and North Korea? Because certainly, I mean, these are two countries that we have to watch very carefully in the grand scheme of things.
Well, you know, the Chinese and the North Koreans have kind of a strange relationship. I mean, obviously the Chinese make it possible for North Korea to exist, but North Korea also goes off on its own and exhibits a lot of bizarre behavior that the Chinese are not always 100% on board with. So this is a way of them trying to remind the North Koreans that, you know, you are the tail, we are the dog, remember your place.
Where is China seeking to take their own relations, not only in the region, but certainly with America and with the rest of the world? Because as I let off and talked about this, it is fair to say that still the Chinese are still a little bit mysterious to us here in America, certainly in the West, where many times they do things we don't pay attention, we don't seem to understand them, and many times we seem to almost, again, it's that nudge and a wink here right now. And again, I come back to that whole end game thinking, but where is China going in the changing of how it is perhaps changing its own political aspect and what it's looking to do with other nations?
Well, you know, I think what you're touching on is that the Chinese tend to think in terms of long-term and an end game, whereas we tend to be more in sort of soundbite mode. And the Chinese are expanding their power, and they are pushing themselves out and asserting much more control and influence in the surrounding area. And it's not necessarily going to happen all overnight in one dramatic moment. It's just going to be continuous and relentless. And until somebody makes them back off, it's just going to continue to spread.
But is there anybody who would make them back off?
Well, for instance, you have seen recently that very recently, the Japanese formally announced that they are changing their doctrine in terms of how their military can operate and where it can operate. The Japanese have bumped heads with the Chinese several times recently in the East China Sea, and they have sort of absorbed the lesson that we're not stepping in. And so they're clearly saying to the Chinese, okay, so we are going to begin to take steps militarily that we have not taken since the end of the Second World War to stand up for ourselves.
We know the Chinese are economically very powerful, but again, you touched on it briefly, and I wanted to touch on it again. The military strength here. Again, something which we don't pay much attention to. How strong is this military if you bring them up into 21st century technology?
Well, the Chinese military is not a match man for man or technologically for the U.S. military. But on the other hand, they're not right now trying to project power to the west coast of the United States, for instance. They're trying to project power within relative proximity to their shores, within several hundred miles. And they are developing some pretty scary capabilities to help them in that regard. For instance, they have recently tested a ballistic missile that is specifically designed to destroy U.S. aircraft carriers. They even built a mock-up of the U.S. aircraft carrier out in the Gobi Desert, which is what they tested it on, just in case anybody missed the message.
How worried should we be that as the Chinese continue to build new weapons and the ballistic missile you mentioned, that one day it will come to bear against the United States or our interests?
I think we should absolutely be very focused on this. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. But for instance, in the case of Taiwan, the only reason Taiwan has not been formally occupied by the mainland Chinese is because of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. We have effectively guaranteed the existence of Taiwan as a separate entity. Once the Chinese are in a position to push us back and change that equation, then all kinds of things can happen.
All kinds of things will happen, and as I noted here at the top, we have to make sure to keep an eye out there, because while the rest of the world kind of gathers our attention, we cannot let the Chinese kind of get very far from what we're looking at in the world theater. Charles, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful 4th of July.
You too.
It is something that we have to watch. It is something that we will watch right here, because quite frankly, trust me, the Chinese are watching what we're doing. You can always tell us what you think on social media. Always a way to get hold of us on Twitter, email, and Facebook, and then we'll talk about it here, because this is the Newsmax TV network and MidPoint, where we question everything.
Eligible for Medicare, that's a good thing, but it doesn't cover everything. Only about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. So consider an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call today to request a free decision guide to help you better understand what Medicare is all about and which AARP Medicare supplement plan works best for you. With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. There's a range of plans to choose from too, and they all travel with you, anywhere in the country. Join the millions who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations, and provided by United Healthcare Insurance Company, which has over 30 years of experience behind it. Call today. Remember, Medicare supplement insurance helps cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay. Expenses that could really add up. These kinds of plans could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose any doctor who accepts Medicare patients, and there are virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. With all the good years ahead, look for the experience and commitment to go the distance with you. Call now to request your free decision guide. This easy-to-understand guide will answer some of your questions and help you find the AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited time offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Right now, we are closely monitoring Hurricane Arthur, which could affect your holiday weekend. As Americans prepare to celebrate the 4th of July, Hurricane Arthur is threatening to ruin celebrations along much of the East Coast. Forecasters say the storm will creep up the coast over the next few days, and parts of North Carolina have already issued a hurricane watch. North Carolina's Governor Pat McCrory told her citizens to stay safe and had this message for the media.
We need the media to help inform you and to form our citizens, but I don't want the media to pull a Dan Rather on us.
That statement comes as the governor joins other state officials to give an update on Hurricane Arthur. What Governor McCrory is referring to with that Dan Rather statement is journalists putting themselves in compromising situations when covering hurricanes, like these reporters here. Take a look.
You know, Matt, our truck operator, Tom Bear, said, "Don't you wish you had your weight back?"
Long Beach is a barrier island, and so we're expecting that storm surge to come up here and also took us to ground zero for Irene. So it was impossible to comprehend the force.
We'll be sure to bring you updates on Hurricane Arthur from the safety of our studios throughout the day. We hope our viewers in the path of Arthur stay safe and perhaps don't take the risk that those reporters did. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to MidPoint.
I've been there. Proving once again why there is a place called Outland. It's a place where American politicians can learn valuable lessons in how to get closer to their constituents, where we find the kind of art that delivers a potent response from the public, and where song changes everything. Let us begin Outland for this July 3rd. Of course, we've been talking all week long about the Supreme Court. The court ruled 5-4 that certain for-profit companies are not required to provide both birth control coverage and other forms of contraceptions for their employees. This, of course, the Hobby Lobby Conestoga decision. Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote the dissent on this, a 35-page dissent, clearly stating her support for women's right contraception coverage under Obamacare, the employer's health care. A gentleman by the name of Jonathan Mann, who has done something like this before, took 35 pages of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and put it to song.
Any decision to use contraceptives is not propelled by the government. It's the woman's autonomous choice informed by her doctor. Approving some religion religious claims while deeming others unworthy could be perceived as favoring one religion over another. Would the exemption extend to blood transfusions, antidepressants, and anesthesia, pills coated with gelatin, and vaccinations? Whoa, now the court, I fear, has ventured into a minefield full of slut-shaming geezers and religious extremism. Oh, but one thing's clear, the fight isn't over. We gotta stand together for what we know is right.
It's already better than anything Miley Cyrus ever did. I'd like to see her try something like that. I think it had about 16,000 hits last time I checked, too. All right, here comes the next one up for Outland. John's already in, as a matter of fact. A young lady by the name of Tracy Emin, maybe not so young, a 1998 piece of art called My Bed. It depicts underwear stained with blood, alcohol containers, and a used condom sold in London as art. Art.
The first time I showed it was in Japan, and in Japan the Japanese people thought my slippers were disgusting, which kind of makes sense in a way. Why would you have dirty slippers inside a house? In America it was like, yeah, it's feminist art, we've seen it all before. And then of course when I showed it at the Tate during the Turner Prize in 1999, things just went crazy. Just like, you know, I never would have imagined the amount of fuss that was caused, because there hadn't been a great amount of fuss in Japan or America, so I wasn't expecting it in the UK.
It was said very well in our pre-production meeting, if I can do it at home, then it's not art. By the way, I have a 1-year-old Norwegian elk hound who is having accidents in the house right now. I'm selling it for at least $3 million. It'll be up next week on YouTube. We'll let you know. Why not? All right. And finally, for Outland, a Japanese politician by the name of Rai Itaro. By the way, he really didn't do anything. I was just making that up. Rai Itaro Nonomura has been accused of misusing thousands of dollars in government funds. A 47-year-old Japanese politician. How do you tell the people, Congress, pay attention, how do you tell the people that you're sorry like this? In case you're wondering, translation, I'm the guy who bought the bed. In case you would like to let us know what you think about these things, and also perhaps you'd like to get something nominated for Outland, because quite frankly, we're always looking for those things that might actually lead us to somebody, a denizen of Outland, although as you can see, it's fairly easy sometimes the way things are going. How come John Boehner didn't do that? I mean, that's my big question. If Boehner had done that, can you imagine? I mean, Congress, take a note. Do something. Ask America for forgiveness. Cry, man, cry. Could be like doing television soon. If you want to tell us something here on social media, please do, as a matter of fact. Let us know via Twitter, via email, via Facebook, and perhaps you too can be a denizen of Outland. And perhaps you too can send us pictures of your bed with bad slippers. Could sell for millions, who knows? Stick around, everybody. MidPoint continues right here on the Newsmax TV network.
In 2014, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you're robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at aftbook.com. That's aftbook.com.
Get ready, America! The Affordable Health Care Act is here, and it's got everyone asking, how do I find affordable health insurance that's right for me? The answer is simpler than you think. Pick up the phone and call I Can Benefit right now. Waiting for you is a team of licensed insurance agents who understand healthcare reform and can help you find the right plan to take care of you and your family's health, because nothing is more important. Have you been denied in the past? I have. Struggling to pay high premiums? Join the hundreds of thousands of callers just like you and let us help you find a plan that works for you and your budget. But I'm not stopping there. Call now and receive your free ICANN prescription savings card. Save up to 85% on prescription medications at over 60,000 pharmacies nationwide. Don't wait. Call now and get the answers you deserve and a price you'll love.
Call toll-free 1-800-426-2983. That's 1-800-426-2983. Call now.
If you're a senior 62 or over, have you recovered financially? Have you magically replaced all your retirement money? Are you suddenly all set for retirement? With a government-backed reverse mortgage, you'll never make another mortgage payment again. Instead, you'll receive money in any number of different ways that you choose. The money you get is tax-free, and there are no restrictions on how to use it.
That was the best thing I've ever done.
Call 1-800-548-6498.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic. Some will never return. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
I did take a banned substance, and for that, I'm very sorry and deeply regretful. And although it was a culture back then, and in Major League Baseball overall, I just feel that I'm just sorry. I'm sorry for that time. I'm sorry to my fans. I'm sorry for my fans in Texas.
Took him years and a lot of prodding, also a lot of national publicity to try and repair his image. But Alex Rodriguez was finally caught and finally admitted that he took steroids that helped him become the player he was. But did Major League Baseball give him permission to break those sacrosanct rules in the first place? That and more. We dig into our stick and ball segment, sports without all the hassle of those overused highlights and scores. Welcome in sports analyst, legal analyst, and attorney with Gorin, Cheroff, Dowdy, and Israel, PA, Bram Merriman joins us. Thanks for being here. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Well, this is your birthday present right here. I mean,
right.
I don't know if you knew this, but your family suggested this. This was just your birthday present.
Well, then I need to thank my wife and daughter and son.
Nothing else. You get nothing and like it.
Right.
A-Rod okayed for testosterone in 2007. First of all, Major League Baseball saying we didn't do it, we didn't know. They're punishing the guy right now. Well, they bounced him, and they basically drove him out of baseball because of this, because he broke the rules. Now we have the rule perhaps being broken by them. Legally, this is a mess if you're thinking about getting involved in it here, because they may have given him the okay to do it in the first place.
Well, that's maybe partially true. Let's step back.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV. There you go.
So let's step back here real quick. So you have the Major League Baseball Players Association and you have Major League Baseball owners. They come together in collective bargaining and they come up with, among other things, collective bargaining agreement. Part of it is this drug testing policy. And in the drug testing policy is involved someone called an independent medical authority, appointed by the owners and players. So while somebody perhaps involved with this, really this was the independent medical authority's decision to allow A-Rod in 2007 and 2008 to use the testosterone and then the Clomid.
So then it does come with a tacit approval though, but can't his lawyers come back and say the Major League Baseball knew that I was of everything else I took?
Well, I'm not a medical doctor, so I think it's...
You don't play one on TV either.
Definitely not.
Good, okay.
But I think it would be interesting to find out what the addiction level is to something like this, insofar as if someone had the implicit permission or just the permission from the IMA to have a therapeutic use exemption for testosterone and Clomid, so this person could take these drugs. By the way, when the vast majority of these TUEs, the therapeutic use exemptions, were for ADHD drugs. Okay, would this person, after having taken it so long, have some kind of an addictive effect or addictive personality or what have you? That remains to be seen. But the way this all came out, and this specific story came out, was through arbitration transcripts. So when A-Rod was challenging the suspension, the 211-game suspension that Major League Baseball had meted out, that's when that is, how did that confidential transcript leak to the folks at the Miami
ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Miami Herald. I mean, you can just go ahead and start talking about all the different places that have found all these stories over the last couple of years.
So I think that to me is the interesting thing here. I think people might be overblowing the Major League Baseball gave permission or the union gave permission because they both appointed this individual who is based in North Carolina. Now there's a panel of doctors. So I don't think that one person could be pointed to making one decision or another. And this one person probably had hundreds of TUE petitions pointed at him.
Yeah, they were talking about in 2007, 1,354 players suggested to testing, 111 were granted a TUE. So it's not like he was the only guy sitting. And then again, Major League Baseball gets caught, again, pretty much red-handed by not giving everybody every piece of information, which looks bad for them no matter how you slice it.
It's definitely a bad PR look for them, and even potentially for the union. But I think they can both sweep this under by pointing to the IMA and saying, "Hey, look, we have nothing to do with this. The IMA made this decision."
Somebody else. Blame somebody else. There you go. It's the way it always works. Come on. All right, let's turn now to the NBA and Donald Sterling. His trial is set for Monday. Apparently, his competency is no issue here. Again, though, isn't this still going to be? He has a business that is part of a company that has bylaws. It still seems to me as if the NBA does not have a cut and dried way to take that franchise away from him and make him sell it.
Well, you're not the only person to say that. There are plenty of pundits out there who still hold fast to the fact that Donald Sterling's properly recorded and violated the law and what have you. That being said, what we have here starting on Monday, this 4-day trial, is there's two issues here. One is whether or not Shelley Sterling's physicians duped Donald Sterling into having these medical examinations. It's been widely reported that one of the physicians actually went out for drinks with the Sterlings afterwards. So was it a medical exam? Was it a social engagement? Nobody really knows. To me, I think it's his or her protocol is for a mental examination, and the person grants them permission. I think that might be really hard for Donald Sterling and his legal team to counteract. I think it's a red herring, the going out for drinks thing.
I got about 45 seconds here, and we're going to do so much more, but this is still fascinating me right now with Sterling to make him get rid of it. It is still a private conversation recorded by someone with or without his knowledge. So doesn't this open it up? I mean, we are looking at legal challenges that could be years in the making for this. Could this go to the Supreme Court one day even?
Well, Donald Sterling's got his lawsuit against the NBA, and I'm sure that that will be played out in the courts perhaps. But in the meantime, this 4-day trial is going to determine whether or not Shelley Sterling had the authority to sell the Clippers. If she had control of the trust legally to sell the Clippers, that's it. It's done. The Clippers, it's almost like a rubber stamp on the sale. Legally.
Which is the league then basically saying that we can take it away, but they still have to prove that she had the sale, that she had the ability, she had the right. It's a mess.
That's right.
Bram, thanks so much for coming in. Again, very happy birthday, my friend. Come back and join us again. And,
I would love to.
And hopefully we won't have to talk about Donald Sterling anymore. It's a distinct possibility one of these days. All right. Coming up, News Call takes us around the world and lets you hear and see what some people are saying and what the TV news media. We focus on the issue in the Middle East, the Israelis and the Palestinians. That and much more coming up next on MidPoint. That and much more coming up next on MidPoint.
Uh-oh, you're behind the wheel and the sun is so bright you're blinded by the light and can't see a thing. Your visor doesn't stop it, so you dare to drive right into the glare. Stop blinding sun and dangerous glare with EasyView XT, the amazing fast flip-down glare blocker that blocks sun glare in a split second. Just slide EasyView XT onto any visor and that's it. It stays sure and secure, no tools or assembly required. With just a flip, you've got the sun and glare neutralizing protection you need at your fingertips. Traditional car sun visors block your view and impede your vision. EasyView XT is made of clear acrylic that you can see right through with a perfect tint to diffuse light and glare so you can keep the road ahead in clear view. Look, morning sun makes it impossible to see, but you always have a clear view with EasyView XT. With late afternoon glare, you can't see what's ahead, but with EasyView XT, you'll be amazed at what you'll see instead. It even reduces glare from oncoming headlights at night.
I drive my kids from school every afternoon directly into the sun, but now with EasyView XT, I can actually see and keep my family safe.
I drive nearly 100 miles each day for work, and with EasyView XT, I never have to squint into the sun.
With EasyView XT, I'm a lot more comfortable and confident behind the wheel.
I won't even put my rig in gear without my EasyView XT in it.
Stop squinting and gazing into the sun and glare. Get the EasyView XT glare blocker so you can actually see. And right now it's yours for just $10. Whether it's early morning sun, blinding afternoon light, or diffusing headlight glare at night, you'll use EasyView XT driving everywhere. And there's more. Order right now and we'll double the offer and send a second EasyView XT for the passenger side. And it's yours free. Just pay separate processing and handling. You get 2 EasyView XT glare blockers, a $30 value for just $10. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-729-9860. That's 1-800-729-9860. Or go to EasyViewXT.com. Order now.
Are you feeling tired, run down, low on energy? Well, you could be just like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, now there's hope to change all of that. Introducing Actilin. Actilin is a premium nutritional supplement designed to support optimal thyroid function. Actilin has 17 powerful ingredients that support adrenal health, thyroid function, energy, and your immune system. Actilin was formulated by the renowned holistic practitioner, Dr. David Brownstein. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. You pay only for shipping and handling. Act right now and get Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. Get Actilin and the special report. Sign up today at getactilin.com. That's getactilin.com. Or call us at the number below.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of finding someone to invest in his vision? 1 in 4.5 million. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Another tragic day in the Middle East, another revenge killing, another teenager paying the price for generations of hate and distrust. News Call brings us the latest from the broadcast networks as they report the latest in escalating tensions between Israel and the Palestinians.
Well, Israeli police have cordoned off this largely Palestinian neighborhood of East Jerusalem, where local residents have been rioting since early this morning following the death of a Palestinian teenager.
violent clashes broke out between Israeli police and Palestinian residents near Jerusalem, following reports that a young Palestinian had been kidnapped and killed overnight by Israelis in an apparent retribution attack.
Israeli police recovered this morning the remains of a body, a young man who'd been beaten and set alight. He was Mohammed Abu Qadir, a 17-year-old Palestinian schoolboy that neighbors say was kidnapped by Israeli settlers. His home is in East Jerusalem, and it now marks a makeshift front line in the running battles with Israeli soldiers.
Many here in the Gaza Strip want to show that they're not afraid of a conflict with Israel, but they also want to show their anger about the murder today of a Palestinian teenager in Jerusalem. And this is the flag from Hamas.
Hamas.
Yeah? The crowds are growing, different marches now converging on the rally point. It's mostly young men out here waving the green flags of Hamas that has organized tonight's rally. There are Hamas revolutionary songs playing, fireworks going off, a very festive atmosphere.
Israeli border police tried to curb the angry rioters. They fired tear gas and rubber-coated steel bullets. Dozens of people were injured. The killing of Abu Qadir happened less than 2 days after the bodies of 3 Jewish settlers were found in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli government blames Hamas for their abduction and murder. Palestinian officials argue that the Israelis are responsible for the latest round of violence.
And this all started earlier today when news spread about the body, the badly burned body of a Palestinian teenager was found in a Jerusalem forest, and apparently what we're hearing, it appears that he was murdered. And there's growing concern, as you mentioned, Shannon, that this was revenge for the 3 Israeli teens whose bodies, as we've been reporting extensively, were found Monday in the West Bank.
As Palestinian, one is wounded and carried to an ambulance. Israeli soldiers seize the moment and assault the front line, firing stun grenades and rubber bullets. We are trapped behind a car with other reporters, yelling at the Israelis that we are journalists as incoming fire lands inches away. We try to get out of harm's way, but Israeli soldiers take aim at us and order us back.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sought calm.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has instructed the police to expeditiously and decisively investigate this murder. He's also called upon everyone not to take the law into their own hands, not to do anything that could interfere with a swift investigation.
But the Palestinians, who have been under fire for weeks because of the brutal kidnapping and murder of Naftali Frankel, Gilad Sha'ar, and Ayel Yafrach, were quick to point fingers.
What's happening in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem today are war crimes, and the Israeli government is fully responsible for this.
The latest incident came with the release of a new and chilling part of an emergency call made to Israeli police by one of the teens shortly after they were taken prisoner.
Bring you up to speed then on what's happening right now, and this according to the Associated Press. The Israeli military bolstered forces along the volatile border with the Gaza Strip on Thursday in response to intensifying rocket fire as tensions remained high over the deaths of 3 Israeli teenagers and an Arab youth who Palestinians allege was killed in a revenge attack. In one location, soldiers ran across the field in a training exercise. A nearby base, soldiers arrived on a bus and unloaded their equipment. The troop movement was, quote-unquote, defensive, but Israel remained prepared for any additional violence from the Palestinian territory. Again, this is from the Associated Press. And a quote here, "Everything we are doing is to de-escalate the situation, but on the other hand, be prepared for actions that can develop if they do not de-escalate." I would guess to say that the way things have been going, it will not de-escalate for some time. We have 1 more hour to go right here on the fastest 3 hours of news. This is the Newsmax TV network. This is MidPoint, where every single day we question everything.
Do you own mutual funds? You may be paying fees and costs of up to 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades. Or, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now 1-800-575-0066. 1-800-575-0066.
These are real-life emergencies. They happen suddenly, unexpectedly. You can be lost, alone, or in control. You can have help at the push of a button.
This is Medical Alert. How may I help you?
Announcing Medical Alert, the personal alarm system. Medical Alert is there for you in minor emergencies too.
Hello, this is Medical Alert. How may I help you?
I'm not feeling well. I'm lightheaded.
Do you need an ambulance, Julie?
Please, no fuss. Can you call my neighbor, Gladys, for me?
Right away.
I know my children worry about me being alone, but I'm not really alone with my Medical Alert.
Call now for your free consultation to see if Medical Alert is right for you. You'll get this keychain flashlight free just for calling and be eligible to get this second emergency button and this locking key box free with your order.
For your complete medical alert system with the free keychain flashlight, call 1-800-531-6754.
The folks at Facebook can do whatever they want, whenever they want it, and you will be happy about it or else. Unions are getting around to how the Supreme Court decision will actually affect them, and we are hearing the words war on to describe the outcome. And is the only way to defuse the current Middle East situation let it play itself out as just another regional conflict? Third dance in the fastest 3 hours of news where we question everything for Thursday, July 3rd, 2014. Add to all that our daily peek at what's been cooking at America's Forum and the Steve Molsberg Show. Add that veritable bag of chips to it, and we're off. Right after John Bachman deals us the latest edition of Newsmax Now.
Folks heading out of town this holiday weekend are not going to run into too many delays right now, but they do need to pay close attention to the story as new concerns about terrorism have sparked calls for more and tighter security at national airports and international airports as well. Intelligence officials are now calling for tighter security measures, especially at those foreign airports that have direct flights into the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security says it's concerned that terrorists are developing new bombs designed to avoid airport screeners. According to a counterterrorism official, U.S. intelligence has picked up indications that bomb makers from Yemen-based al-Qaeda groups are in Syria and planning to attack the U.S. from those international airports. Their plan, according to intelligence officials, is to develop hidden explosives and then eventually bring the planes down. Also, we turn our attention to the Middle East to keep our attention there. And an Arab teen's death is adding fuel to the fire to the already erupting crisis in Israel. The abduction and suspected revenge killing of a Palestinian teenager led to clashes in the streets of Jerusalem yesterday between protesters and Israeli security forces. Palestinians say the boy was murdered in revenge for the 3 Israeli teens that were killed after they were kidnapped a few weeks ago. Israeli authorities say they have yet to determine what happened to the 16-year-old Arab boy exactly, but White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest had this to say during a recent press conference.
The United States condemns in the strongest possible terms the heinous murder of Palestinian teenager Mohammed Hussein Abu Qadir.
As of right now, neither side is really taking responsibility for the killings of the Arab or Israeli teens. However, Israel is sending more soldiers to the Gaza border as we speak, as the tensions continue to soar. And according to an Israeli military spokesman, the move is, quote, defensive and is in response to intensified rocket fire from the Palestinian side during the deaths and the ensuing search there for those responsible for the deaths of the Israeli teenagers and the Arab teen. The increased military presence includes tanks, artillery, ground troops. The last time Israel launched a major operation in Gaza was in 2012. More ahead with our next update in 30 minutes.
The question in this case was,
in the workers who are home health care workers in Illinois, the ones who don't want to be a part of the union, can they be forced to pay some of union dues? Even they're beneficiaries of the contract, but they don't want to be in the union. And the court said these workers in particular cannot be forced to pay their union dues. What's significant about the case is that the Supreme Court did not view these workers as public employees. They're home health care workers. They're sort of independent contractors, sort of government employees. So the decision is really just limited to these home health care workers. It's not about all public employees. And labor unions were particularly worried about a decision that would apply to all government workers. So it's a narrow decision, a loss for the unions, but it's not as catastrophic as many labor union people feared.
Much of the attention focus from this recent Supreme Court decision and the session was on the Hobby Lobby Conestoga case dealing with contraception and Obamacare. Lost in the shuffle, just a tad, was a decision involving public labor unions that can and likely will have wide-ranging effects across the American employment scape for years to come. That certainly is the fear that some have. Welcome to MidPoint. Chairman of the National Center for Public Policy Research, Amy Ridenour, joins us. Amy, thank you so much for being with us.
Glad to be with you.
Amy, let's get down to this. This is called by many a narrow decision. And again, we're dealing with an individual, a very small group of people in one state in the union. But let's always look, because when you have these decisions, sometimes they do grow and they start to affect many more people. There is that fear from private unions and other public unions. Is this indeed, in your opinion, a decision that will grow and that does have those tentacles and that will start to force change across the union landscape?
It could. It's going to depend on the future composition of the Supreme Court. If we assume the Supreme Court retains the current composition, my guess is yes. And yes, this is an extremely important case for the future of organized labor. A couple of reasons. First, this does not affect private unions. That would be a union that organizes, say, General Motors or GE or any of the companies that work privately for profit. This affects public unions, government unions. And the issue at stake, and many have missed this, is First Amendment, freedom of speech. Individuals were forced to pay service fees to a union, yes, only in Illinois so far. They didn't have a choice about it. They didn't join the union. They were told they had to pay service fees, and the service fees were not used for the sort of thing that typically one thinks they'll be used for, like a collective bargaining, like we'll work for $10 an hour. It was for the union to, along with a few other things that were sort of accounting things, to lobby Illinois and the federal government for expanded Medicaid spending. And that's because these workers did not work for the government. They worked for largely disabled people, elderly people who were on Medicaid. So they were indirectly getting taxpayers' money, but only because the people they worked for received public assistance. So the union was doing left-wing lobbying with their money, and they had no choice but to give it. And they said, that's a First Amendment violation. You're forcing me to pay for speech with which I disagree.
All right, Amy, I'm going to have you go back a little bit on this right now, because here's where some people are maybe having a problem with this. If you think about unions, you have individuals here who are not a member of the union. They're working in a situation where an agreement, a bargaining agreement, if whatever you will, is negotiated by the union. So the union is helping to set rates, is helping to set what they get paid, is helping to set protections. This is the perception that people have here. So then are these people not then taking advantage of what the union is negotiating, even though they are not paying union dues?
No, and that's because the union didn't do the things you just listed. These are individuals who work largely for their own members, the members of their own families. To be very specific about the plaintiff who brought the original case, this is a mom of an adult son who is severely disabled. She stays home and takes care of him. He gets Medicaid. Medicaid gives him extra money to have a home health care worker. Doesn't have to be mom, could be anybody, because the alternative is that he would go into an institution in Illinois, which is more expensive. But the union did not negotiate her wage rate. It did none of those things. Medicaid decided how much they are willing to pay. What the union is doing is it is lobbying Illinois to make more Medicaid payments. It's just as if it was food stamps and they were lobbying for more food stamp money every month, or any sort of welfare payment to say you should give everybody more than $500 a month. You should give them all $550. Just like you or I could go to a state capitol and say, we want you to do more spending here and less spending over there. That's all the union was doing. It was lobbying. So these people said, you're not doing collective bargaining, you're lobbying, and you're making me help you pay for it. And we don't want to.
You have delivered that very rare and logical explanation of many things that people normally don't get when it comes down to Supreme Court decisions. So then, judging by what you just told us, is there indeed any fear? Because it would seem as if what we heard on the soundbite coming in here is, don't worry about it, private unions, other public unions, this is not going to affect you, it is just that narrow. So from what you just said, it would seem then as if they're right, this is so narrow that it would be extremely difficult for the Supreme Court or any lower court, as a matter of fact, to take this and push this forward into another union arena. Yes or no?
It would not be difficult, but they would need a new case.
Okay.
Here's why. In 1977, a plaintiff first brought a case saying that they shouldn't have to give service fees to a public sector union because that union was lobbying for things with which that individual disagreed. The Supreme Court at that time decided that the man had a good point. But what they did was they split the fees. They said part of the fees are for collective bargaining, part of the fees are for political activity. The unions must make a list of how much is for politics, how much is for collective bargaining, and then that guy only has to pay a service fee for the collective bargaining. And that's what's been in effect ever since for labor unions. That's since 1977. Well, fast forward to this week. What happened in this decision is a majority said, we may relook at that 1977 case in the future and decide that actually public unions, that is unions whose members are public employees, actually are violating of the people that are paying service fees, because public unions actually have a dramatic impact on national public policy. So if they do that, then the only revenue that a public union will get is from its voluntary members. Now, that's not unfair in my personal point of view, because those are the people who want to be in the union. But that will be hugely expensive for the union, because they have, since 1977, and actually before that, gotten the money from people who had no choice about giving their money. And you get a lot more money when you can force people to give it to you.
All right, a few minutes I got left here then. What we have just discussed, I love going down this road because it opens up again so many avenues. But from what you've just said, there was an op-ed in the New York Times written by 2 law professors, and the title was "The War on Workers, the Supreme Court Ruling on Harris v. Quinn is a Blow for Unions." They point out here unions are already reeling. At a time when workers are losing economic ground, we should be looking for ways to strengthen their ability to join with co-workers and bargain collectively to improve their lot. From what you just told us, this entire article right here and this entire op-ed is completely incorrect, if I'm reading it right.
That's whoever wrote that. I didn't see it, but they are union opposed.
I'm gonna tell you who it was. It was Cynthia Estlin, a professor of law at New York University, and William Forbath, a professor of law and history at the University of Texas, Austin. Both wrote this, and it was on July the 2nd in the New York Times, a blow for unions.
Okay, well, they are union apologists. They are people who are more concerned about the unions having money than the workers. This decision gives workers more freedom. They are still free to give money to the union. They're still free to join the union. Nothing is taken away from workers. The thesis in that op-ed is that workers benefit from unions having a lot of money. This is debatable. First, we have an awful lot of regulations about what can happen in workplaces. We also have minimum wage laws and plenty of opportunity for people to better themselves with public assistance, with education loans, and so forth, so they can earn more money. 150 years ago, you could get very easily injured if you went to work at a factory. Today, you've got OSHA and state-based, systems to make sure the places are safe. If somebody doesn't pay you, you can go to court and you win. All kinds of things happen to take care of workers. The unions, they're not necessary as they were. Now, a few union people tell me I'm absolutely out of my mind because they're used to being able to file grievances. Well, guess what? Most of the workforce doesn't ever file grievances. They just go to the boss and work it out. And it actually does work.
One last thing, 20 seconds. Here it is talking about the fact that Service Employees International Union, involved in this case, this suit could spur class action suits to recover dues and could put them out of work. True or false? Put them out of business, I should say.
I do not see it putting them out of business. Absolutely not. They might have to lay off a few of the people at the headquarters or go play golf a little less often. But no way, they're not going out of business based on this alone.
Amy, you have just, as a matter of fact, set back the New York Times and their op-ed page at least a couple of days in what you have said, and certainly a couple of economists and lawyers are not going to be very happy. But indeed, you answer the questions from a factual basis, and that's why we like having you here. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today, and please have a wonderful 4th of July holiday.
You too.
All right. There you go. I mean, it's sitting right here. The war on workers. I guess they got it all wrong, didn't they? Well, we can find that out. And why? Because here on MidPoint, every single day, we question everything. We're back with more of the fastest 3 hours of news right here on the Newsmax TV network.
I've got a small business, and everybody said you should be promoting it with Facebook.
Well, I use Facebook for myself, but I had no idea how to use it for my plumbing business.
Then I heard about web.com.
They told me they would build a professional Facebook page for my business free.
So I gave them a call.
And then they built me a Facebook page for free. I couldn't believe it.
If you call web.com now, you can have a new Facebook page built for your small business free. We even write posts for your Facebook page that will get people talking about you.
It's like I have this whole big social media department for my business.
Call now and web.com will build your new Facebook page free. Then we'll continue to bring you new fans, write posts for you, and report on results, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing.
Now people call me and say, I found you on Facebook. How cool is that?
You say it, we build it free.
Call 1-855-235-7998 today.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you think the worst of Obamacare is behind us, think again. Soon its new rules will affect every business, every insured person, and every Medicare recipient. That's why you need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's easy to read, the fastest way for you to understand this law. The Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the tips, loopholes, and strategies you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need to get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's a #1 New York Times bestseller, and already more than 500,000 Americans have gotten their copy. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. The Obamacare Survival Guide is at bookstores everywhere, or get Newsmax's $4.95 special offer and save $15 off the cover price. Just go online now or call us today.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Israel today is mourning the 3 teenagers who were brutally killed by the Hamas terrorists. This atrocity, unfortunately, is the direct result of the fact that the Palestinian Authority and Hamas signed a pact that allowed Hamas to reestablish its presence in the West Bank and to conduct attacks.
Another teenager is dead in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas are at times calling for restraint, yet also seeking what they consider justice. Conflict between these two parties is nothing new. So what sets this latest conflagration apart, and how dangerous might it become? Let us welcome into MidPoint now from the American and Middle Eastern Affairs Center, Dr. Sabri Samira, and also founder, editor, and publisher of AtlasShrugs.com and president of the American Freedom Defensive Initiative, Pamela Geller, joins us today. Thank you so much both for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Pamela, I believe that you are the only one that we have at the moment. We are still waiting to get Sabri here online. So let me ask you this then, quite frankly. As I noted, we have seen these before. Obviously, we are not trying to downplay the loss of 4 young lives, but there is a constant faction, there is a constant fighting between these two sides. In your opinion, and looking at what we have seen current and recent history to be, how dangerous is this specific incident when it comes to a flashpoint taking us farther than anyone wants to go?
Well, first of all, I disagree with the moral equivocation of both sides. The Israelis just want to live in peace, and the objective of Hamas Fatah is to destroy the Jewish state. But to your point and to your question, it's a very dangerous time. Clearly, the violence is spreading. And so I would have to say that they're on the brink of war. And I don't believe that we should rush to judgment. I mean, I found it most disturbing that Obama was silent for 18 days when the 3 Jewish school kids were kidnapped and murdered. But there was a rush for a statement on this young Muslim who was killed, and we still don't know how that happened. I mean, I'm sure you're aware that there's a history with the police with this family, and there may have been an honor situation. I don't know, and I'm not saying that happened. But what I am saying is we don't know what happened. But it's interesting how the whole world jumps to call it a revenge killing. There is absolute silence for weeks on what they knew was a Hamas operation to kidnap and then subsequently kill. And the reason why the children were killed was because they made a call. And, of course, the 2 Hamas operatives in the car became aware that they were on the phone saying this is a kidnapping, and you can hear in the full audio of the call the murder of those 3 young kids. It's a very dangerous time. According to a poll that was just released, a Fox News poll from the territories, the majority of Palestinians want Palestine from the river to the sea, which means it's a biblical term, which means the complete annihilation of Israel. We have to deal, truth is a recognition of reality, and we have to deal with facts on the ground. And this delusion, this fantasy of a peace process has gotten us to the point we are right now, which is really very scary, particularly with global jihadists literally consuming whole swaths of the Middle East, in Iraq, and in Syria, and now they've vowed to go into Jordan and Saudi Arabia and southern Turkey and what's going on in Africa as well. Very, very scary time.
Pamela, if you listen to all sides, and again, that's what we try to do here as we hear all the various reports coming in from around the world, there are those who will say that when you speak of a peace process, neither side truly wants peace, that Hamas does not want peace, that Israel does not want peace, that Israel wants to make sure that they are taking care of the Palestinian problem. Hamas is looking to take care of the Israeli problem. Where is, in your opinion now, where is the truth in all this? Because it does not seem to the rest of the world that there is a real desire for peace on either side at many times.
Well, I thoroughly and completely and utterly disagree with that absolutely false narrative.
You can absolutely agree with it, but again, and I do understand that it is a narrative that you may consider false, but it is out there. You do understand that?
Oh, not only do I understand it, I know it very well. I mean, it's a false narrative that it's advanced by a media that's notoriously anti-Israel and pro-jihad, and we see that really across the board in other situations as well. But the fact is we know that Israel has given since Oslo everything. And the conditions were never met. We know that even as far back as Clinton, where 97% and Jerusalem was offered to Yasser Arafat and it was summarily turned down. The objective of Hamas, the first paragraph of their charter, calls for the annihilation of Israel. How anyone can say that Israel does not want peace, they've literally cut off their own leg for peace. They have done everything for peace. This is a state that shares our values, our American values, in terms of life, liberty, and individual rights. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. Nobody wants to deal with the Islamic anti-Semitism that is in the Quran, that motivates jihadists, that incites and fuels this war. But the narrative that Israel does not want peace is ridiculous on its face.
Okay, let me go ahead and move on here because I want to interrupt you 1 second here. Dr. Sabri Samara from the American and Middle Eastern Affairs Center now joins us. Dr. Samira, let me ask you that question then, same thing that I recently posed to Pamela. There are those people, and there is the narrative out there, agree with it or not, but it is there, that neither side truly wants peace. That's why there simply is no peace in the Middle East, and there doesn't seem to be any prospect for peace in the Middle East. How would you react to that statement?
Well, principally, logically, Palestine is occupied by the Israelis. This is the fundamental thing. This is what is agreed upon internationally. Even the US, our government, declares that these are lands under occupation. The settlements are illegal. Everybody around the globe is calling upon Israel to end the occupation, to end the settlements, and to stop abusing the Palestinian people. The Palestinians agreed to give up almost 80% of their historical Palestine for the new country that was established, which is called Israel in 1948. That is, they want peace, including Hamas. It agreed to 1967 borders solutions. So it is only Israel that is refusing peace, that is refusing any kind of settlement because of the want that the Israeli government and the Israeli leaders want to control the whole historical Palestine, to kick out all the Palestinians out, and not to give them any single human or civil rights in their own homeland. So Israel does not want peace. The Palestinians want peace.
Pamela, I'm going to ask you to make this, please, 60 seconds. Give me your response to that, please. We're short on time.
It's nonsense. The legal agreement at San Remo, the San Remo resolution, gave Israel the mandate for Palestine. It's outrageous what this man is saying. The fact is, Israel has tried to make peace at every turn. Settlements are not illegal. The Israelis withdrew from Gaza unilaterally, and what has it become but a terror state in which to log rockets at schools and children? It's a ridiculous premise. The Palestinians refuse to make peace. And by the way, there is no such thing as historical Palestine. Historical Palestine is Israel. That idea is a lie. There is no flag. There is no prime minister. Before 1948, there were Palestinian Muslims and Palestinian Jews, and then the Palestinian Muslims were waging war and conducting pogroms against the Palestinian Jews as per the Quran and Islamic anti-Semitism, which is a mandate, a religious imperative of Islam.
Okay, I have a little less than 2 minutes left here. Dr. Samira, let me throw this to you right now. What will it take at this point? We are at a flashpoint again in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine. What will it take? Who will it take in order to shut this down and try to bring some sense to what's going on here and at least some quiet?
The only way is for the American government, our government, to really pressure the Israeli government to stop the nonsense occupation, to stop the nonsense settlement, to really sit down at the table for peace.
There's no occupation.
I did not interrupt you, please. I did not interrupt you, please. So it is the American policy that has to pressure Israel completely and fully. And even when Kerry said, a couple of condolences statements regarding the Palestinian youth who was killed by the Israeli settlers, the Israelis and American supporters of Israel started accusing Kerry of being Palestinian lenient. This is nonsense. This is the government. It's trying to serve the best interests of the states. The best interest of the states is to care for the opinions of the people around the globe, including the 1.5 billion Muslims who really do not accept the American policy. It's
okay, I'm going to have to stop you there. One sec, please. Pamela, 30 seconds in response, please.
The agreement between the post-World War Allied powers was adopted on April 25th, 1920. I suggest your listeners look it up, the San Remo Conference. It was a mandate for a national home for the Jewish people. They are not occupied territories. This is part of the myth.
Okay, but what will it take? 15 seconds. What will it take? I asked the same question. 15 seconds. What will it take to at least bring some peace here?
The acceptance of the Jewish state. The Muslims must recognize the Jewish state. That's the 15 seconds. They must recognize the Jewish state.
Okay, unfortunately, we are out of time. You both have very strong opinions, please. We are going to have you back on again very soon. We want to debate this again. I thank you both for your time, please. I wish you a very happy holiday, and thank you both very much.
Happy 4th.
Pamela Geller, Dr. Sabri Samira, as you can see, This is a very passionate argument that has gone on for many generations. We are going to continue to follow this story and hope things settle down in the Middle East. This is MidPoint, where every day we question everything.
Do you own mutual funds? You may be paying fees and costs of up to 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades or by selling you products. With our model, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook, with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now 1-800-575-0066. 1-800-575-0066.
If you want an adjustable bed, shop by phone and save on a new Craftmatic, the best-selling adjustable brand ever. Call for prices and free information. There's no obligation. Our everyday low prices are guaranteed. Compare us to the leading memory foam brand and save hundreds, even $1,000 or more. Discover our 30-day in-home trial. We won't be undersold. There's no hassle, no pressure, no pain. No salesman will come to your home. Convenient delivery, installation, and in-home service in the continental U.S. Watch TV, read, eat, rest, and relax at the touch of a button. Enjoy personal heat and soothing massage at a price you can afford. So why consider anything else? Discover Craftmatic for less, up to 50% less. Call for prices and free information and save hundreds, even $1,000 or more on luxurious memory foam. There's no obligation. Call now.
Call 1-800-686-3106. That's 1-800-686-3106. Call 1-800-686-3106. Call now.
Who looks better, bald Milo or Milo with hair? What about this guy, bald Torrance or Torrance with hair? If you think that you'd look and feel better with hair, now you can do something about it. Introducing the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss. You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. To find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So what are you waiting for? Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 1-800-647-5986. That's 1-800-647-5986.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Take a look at what happened in Philadelphia. A mysterious fire ignited yesterday involving 2 tour buses reportedly belonging to the rock bands Styx and Foreigner. The video shows the fire starting on one bus, and officials say it spread to another. No injuries were reported, and the bands are scheduled to perform later tonight in New Jersey. And millions of Americans are preparing for 4th of July celebrations tomorrow. This video comes from Addison, Texas, which is appropriately dubbed Kaboom Town. Addison is said to host one of the nation's biggest 4th of July fireworks displays. The 30-year-old tradition attracts nearly 500,000 visitors from around the country. Organisers say they've had to issue a limited amount of tickets to the event this year because of its popularity. In addition to dazzling fireworks show choreographed to music, the festivities include live music and historic warplane flybys. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to MidPoint.
Let me see if I have this right. A mysterious fire in a tour bus featuring 1980s rock and roll bands. A mysterious fire. Those of you over the age of 40, I know you're with me on this one. Okay. Talk about hot-blooded. All right, let's go ahead and check out the flashback now for America's Forum and the Steve Malzberg Show. First of all, let us start out on America's Forum this morning, as a matter of fact, right here on the Newsmax TV network. J.D. Hayworth asked Bob Dane, the communications director at the Federation for American Immigration Reform, about the plan that federal agents will once again try to bring undocumented immigrants to Marietta, California on the 4th of July.
This president basically gave the middle finger to Congress. Earlier the response by the Obama administration has been laughable, and I think it's frustrating most Americans. On Monday, J.D., we watched a Rose Garden speech by Obama that was really a brazen and an unapologetic attempt to shift the blame from himself to House Republicans. And his tortured logic is we are having this border search of illegal aliens because he didn't pass amnesty, because Congress wouldn't pass amnesty. It's ludicrous. It was incredibly unpresidential and petulant and most certainly unconstitutional.
It is worthwhile noting that in Marietta, California, they had a tremendous outpouring last night as far as a community gathering to talk about it. There is still a lot going on there. It is going to happen over the weekend. And, of course, we have news of Congress and members, elected officials who are going to the Texas-Mexico border this weekend, including Rick Perry. It is going to be an interesting time. All right, now, Dr. Ron Paul, former Texas congressman and GOP presidential candidate, joined Steve Malzberg yesterday on the Steve Malzberg Show and said that it makes no doubt how you want to look at this. You can talk about it 6 ways to Sunday, over and above, but there's no doubt about it. All presidents overstep their authority, and this is still coming down to the discussion about whether or not President Barack Obama overstepped his authority. Of course, the Supreme Court has ruled against him many times, but as far as presidents overstep their authority, but even when you consider that, he was surprised at the arrogance, he calls it, of Barack Obama.
You know, you'd think with all his problems he'd become a little more mellow and a little more cautious, but he becomes more aggressive, so he's more defensive, and I'm surprised at that, because I think he's doing excessively what most presidents do. They overstep their bounds, and I'm always complaining, as from a libertarian viewpoint, you know, they're always doing too much, but I've never seen any of them be so arrogant about it, so in your face about it. You know, most of the presidents have always abused this executive order and executive power, but he gets right up there and he says, you know, I got a pen and I got a telephone and the Congress won't act. If the Congress doesn't act, I am obligated to do it and I'm going to do it. He doesn't back off at all. If it's even if he were on the right side, it seems would have him lowered in the polls.
We of course remind you it all begins with America's Forum at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time. Next up, today's Medical Minute with Dr. Chauncey Crandall, a way to keep yourself healthy for the holiday weekend.
If you have high cholesterol, you probably think that taking a statin drug is the best way to lower it. After all, why wouldn't you? Statin drugs in the world. But although they are great medications to those who truly need them, other people can lower their cholesterol just by adding certain foods to their diet. Here are the 3 cholesterol-lowering foods that you'll find at your supermarket. Number 1 is oatmeal. Oatmeal is a potent cholesterol-lowering food because oats are a soluble fiber. This means that they absorb the excess cholesterol and get out of your body. In addition, oatmeal also helps prevent diabetes and cancer as well. In fact, research shows that eating oatmeal on a regular basis can be as effective as taking a statin. Second, choose salmon over beef and you'll be replacing a food packed with cholesterol-raising saturated fat with one rich in monounsaturated fat. This is the type of good fat that makes salmon taste fattening, but it's not. Salmon is also packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which lower triglycerides, another dangerous blood fat. Third, if it's mid-afternoon and you're craving a snack, grab a handful of almonds. Eating almonds every day lowers your bad LDL cholesterol by about 9%. Almonds are also packed with other vitamins as well, but the best thing about almonds is that they don't taste like a health food. Almonds contain no cholesterol and are also packed with healthy monounsaturated oils. Since most of you are already reading my book, The Simple Heart Cure, I want you to go to chapter 11, in which I tell you about foods that can help you lower your cholesterol. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Health Minute. I'll see you next time.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with his special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
Any flashlight can throw a beam, but not even this floodlight is bright enough to light up a room. Now there's the Torchlight from Bell & Howell, the high-tech portable light that's really big on brightness. Look, ordinary flashlights just have a narrow beam, but the Torchlight has a brighter, wider beam that brilliantly lights up the entire room. Even when the power goes out, you won't be left in the dark because its 28 ultra-bright LEDs give you over 100,000 hours of bright, reliable light. It's like having nature's own sunlight at your fingertips. Its high-powered magnetic base lets you securely attach it to any metal surface to give you a steady, bright light that brilliantly lights up your entire work area. It's like having an extra pair of hands. It's so powerful it can lift up to 2.5 pounds. And with its bright light, there's no easier way to quickly pick up dropped nails and screws. And look, the Torchlight is also a flashlight. Its 5 white LEDs give you a clear, bright light to easily see wherever you go. The sturdy base keeps the Torchlight in place exactly where you want it. And the articulating arm has 6 preset positions that let you tilt the light an incredible 180 degrees to give you total lighting coverage. Use it at your computer, as a table lamp, or to light up those dark, unlit areas. Better yet, with the built-in hook, you can hang it anywhere and rotate it 360 degrees to give you light wherever you need it. While its rugged construction makes it impact resistant and weatherproof too. And now the Bell & Howell Torchlight is yours for just $10. But wait, call now and we'll double your order. That's 2 for the price of 1. Just pay separate processing and handling. Order your Torchlight now.
To order your Torchlight and receive a second one free, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-936-0400. That's 1-800-936-0400.
So we clearly communicated really badly about this, and that we really regret. We do research in an ongoing way, in a very privacy protective way, to improve our service, and this was done with that goal.
There is a good chance that every single person watching this show right now uses Facebook, which means you are having your emotions manipulated by Facebook, whether you like it or not. And plenty of people are steamed about it. But when you think about it, is what Facebook is doing, in essence, any worse than what any other advertiser seeks to do? John Friedman is one of our Newsmax masters, featured on the Mothership website, writes for Time, Esquire, and others. We welcome him back to MidPoint once again. John, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm fine, thanks. You too. How are you? Good to see you.
It's another day in paradise, unless, of course, you're worried that your paradise may be caught by Facebook, or they might catch you doing something here. First up, John, I have to tell you, I hear the COO in that soundbite telling us, we regret what we did. I'm sorry, but I don't think Facebook regrets anything that they do, because quite frankly, this is an autonomous business that gets away with almost whatever they want whenever they want it, isn't it?
Bingo. This company is snooping on its customers and users all the time without their knowledge and with their knowledge, but they keep snooping on their people all the time, trying to get information about their buying habits, their shopping habits, their consumer habits, and it's gotten to a point where it might be too much invasion of privacy right now for all of us.
Is it not fair to say, though, and if you look at Facebook, and again, I'm sure that both of us, at least me, will probably have our Facebook accounts cut right off whenever this interview is over, knowing full what we're about to say.
I'll take my chances.
Pay your money, take your chances. There you go. But there is no real customer service at Facebook. There is no one really to talk to. There is no one to contact. They literally, and perhaps there's a private business, they can do whatever they want, but they really do not answer to anybody, and there are many times it seems as if they don't answer to the government, and they're higher than anybody on the planet in some cases because they are so isolated, correct?
It's true. Facebook does not charge a fee for the use of the service. It's very important because Facebook now can do whatever it wants. By not charging us any money, they can basically say, you're not paying us for anything. You serve Facebook at our pleasure when we want and what we say, so keep on being our user. Maybe not a customer, but a user is the better word. And if you don't like it, tough luck, go somewhere else. Where else? Nowhere else. You're stuck with Facebook.
But here's the question.
The first taste is free.
Well, exactly. Did this really violate any ethics whatsoever here? Because it's the experimental evidence of massive scale emotional contagion through social networks. This was published last week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. They did this in conjunction with scientists supposedly here. But is what Facebook doing here really any different than what any advertiser wishes they could do every single day in order to manipulate emotions, find out what consumers want, and then be able to sell them the correct product?
However, Ed,
please,
we're not advertisers. Facebook's a service that we all use. We don't use advertisers as a service. They use us. And we think I can tell somebody on Facebook what I'm doing, what I'm shopping, where I'm going, what movie I'm seeing, what I like in the restaurants, and not have it come back to me down the road and being watched by Big Brother. Is this Big Brother? That's another big question for us. Is this 1984 all over again with Facebook as Big Brother?
Don't you think, though, that there's a lot of advertisers out there who, quite frankly, are happy with what Facebook is doing? Because if you think about it, they're manipulating the advertisers, what you see. They're manipulating your emotions, but they also have those advertisers on it. So wouldn't the advertisers themselves be very thrilled to see this because they know that through these studies, which basic TV and radio doesn't really do, or can't do for that matter, that they're targeting the advertisers and that it could mean more money for them down the road?
Totally. Advertisers love this. That's why Facebook is doing it, to impress advertisers, to appeal to advertisers, to who advertisers. They want them to come to Facebook instead of Twitter or LinkedIn or someplace else. They want Facebook to be their destination, the advertisers. And Facebook is collecting all this data about us, all these data about our shopping habits and buying habits and preferences about movies and cars and beer, and telling advertisers, hey, 1849 in Milwaukee loves this, whereas in Boston they love that. And it's a really good scheme Facebook has going on for advertisers. It's absolutely true.
I have to tell you this, though, John. There are always people complaining that Facebook wants to know all of my personal information, and I keep coming back to a very simple answer on all this. So you say things on Facebook, you put things in your status, you answer people's questions, you say them so the world can see it, and then you're surprised when somebody actually uses it against you? I mean, doesn't that kind of basic common sense? If you don't want anybody to know, you don't tell them, right?
I agree with you 100% there, too. I am so careful on Facebook and Twitter to say nothing controversial, nothing salacious, nothing that can be used against me in a court of public opinion or law. And I'm pretty boring on Facebook, and I'm pretty boring on Twitter. But you know what? I'm thrilled with myself.
Okay, I try not to be boring, but I will tell you, you do have to watch what you say. Couple of minutes we got left here. Talking about saying things, you recently wrote a column on the Newsmax website that talked about Hillary Clinton's greatest enemy. All right, I'm going to let you reveal it. Hillary Clinton's greatest enemy as she goes through her book tour and gets ready to possibly run for the president would be whom?
Herself. Hillary herself. She says things that she may regret later. And this is not a one-time possibility. She does this all the time, it seems. She says things that she wishes she probably hadn't said. For example, she said the other day she's not really rich. And, I mean, come on. Maybe not Bill Gates rich or Mark Zuckerberg rich, but she's pretty rich.
But is the most amazing thing in all this, she is not a political nor a media neophyte. She has been around it most of her adult life, if not all of her adult life. She saw what her husband went through. She knows how the media works. She knows what she says. But the fact that she says these things, I think that's the thing that may have people who would want to back her for president going, why would you go there if you should know better?
It's mind-boggling. It's the fourth quarter. You have the ball. Time's running out. Fall on the ball. Don't hand it off. Don't throw a pass. Fall on the ball. Win the game. Walk away very quietly. She should do these things. Play it safe. She's way ahead. She's got the lead all by herself. Why is she tampering with her own lead? I don't understand it.
Here's the big question, though, because it takes so long. We've got until 2016. Americans, as I've said, many of us have the attention span of a gnat. Is it not fair to say that no matter what she says right now, we've got lots of time if she just sort of soft pedals everything at this point? Yes, things will come back in the media. Yes, the sound bites will be there. But Americans have a tendency to forget these things, don't they?
Sure, but again, nothing has ever gone away. Look at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, these Wikipedia. These are forever. You know, things she does and says, and everyone does and says, is forever nowadays. And you can be sure that in 2 years, her opponents will bring back this memory saying, Hillary, you aren't really rich. I beg to differ with that. Aren't you really rich? And she looked kind of silly.
Remember, John, those great words. I misspoke.
I'm sorry.
It's exactly the way to get out of it all the time. Hey, John, thanks for stopping by, my friend. We'll read you on Newsmax.com, and have a great 4th of July.
Thank you. I appreciate you, too.
All right. We'll take a break, come back on the other side, and get you ready to head for New York City right here at MidPoint.
If you want to shed the fat and sculpt your core to get those sexy toned abs of your dreams, then stop doing sit-ups. Say what? And start dancing with Hip Hop Abs, the fun new ab sculpting system from Insanity creator Sean T.
I don't want you to ever get down on the floor to do crunches again. I'm gonna break it down so you burn the fat and sculpt those abs fast.
Just do Sean's easy-to-follow moves to work your upper abs, middle abs, lower abs, and obliques, all while you're dancing.
I went from a size 18 to a size 2. I have abs now. I've got a six-pack.
And now the complete $80 Hip Hop Abs system is 75% off. That's right, Hip Hop Abs is only $19.95. We'll even upgrade you to express shipping free. Get the complete Hip Hop Abs system for only $19.95.
Call 1-800-488-9042 or order online at gethiphopabs.com. 1-800-488-9042. Call now.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
It will forever be popularly known as Star Wars, and Luke Skywalker had nothing to do with it. When President Ronald Reagan looked at the future of warfare and announced the creation of the Space Defense Initiative, it seemed more science fiction than fact. Perhaps not the best use of the technology, but certainly a forebear of things to come. That's the focus of this American Moment.
I call upon the scientific community in our country, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace.
On March 23, 1983, President Reagan surprised not only the nation, but members of his own cabinet and military by announcing an Oval Office address that the United States would embark on creating an anti-missile system to stop and destroy nuclear-tipped missiles in space. Reagan called the program the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, while his critics quickly dubbed the program Star Wars. Still, the idea gained popular support and played a key role in undermining the Soviet Union and its arms buildup. By 1987, with his own nation facing economic collapse and unable to match the U.S. program, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev capitulated and signed the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Within 4 years, the Soviet Empire itself would collapse, ending a Cold War that lasted more than 4 decades. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Before the long weekend begins for us here, we're going to head for New York right now. Steve Malzberg standing by, readying the Steve Malzberg Show. Begins at 3 o'clock Eastern Time right here on the Newsmax TV network. Sarah, we've been spending a lot of time here. Of course, we're on the air for 3 hours, so we can't see everything. But you've had a chance to go ahead and watch this court case involving this Georgia father, or at least some of the testimony involving the Georgia father with the young boy who died in the car. Some of the stuff coming out of this that you were telling me about, it's just astounding.
It is astounding. Yeah, I've been able to watch it on and off, and the headlines are that so many people thought this father was innocent. I heard CNN anchors say, oh, he suffered enough just losing his child. Who doesn't make a mistake? Well, it turns out, according to testimony from police in this hearing to see if this man will stand trial for the death of his son, he was sexting 6 different women on the day his son died. He had information and looked up information about how to live a child-free life. There was trouble, all this is reportedly, according to police, trouble in the marriage. The wife reportedly said to him, you didn't say too much to the police, did you? It goes on and on. There was a video on his phone about a veterinarian who talked about how animals die in overheated cars. Plus, he had looked up and Googled, along with his wife separately, looked up how a child might die in a car that's overheated. So, I mean, the evidence so far, if it's all true, just seems overwhelming.
If indeed a lot of this evidence is true, Steve, I know that we have to keep asking ourselves how anybody can be that evil. First of all, is one thing that comes to mind, but that's stupid. I mean, seriously, we just talked about Facebook a couple of minutes ago, but the fact that Facebook, sexting, cell phones, whatever it is, there is a record of what you have done. If you are that stupid, then quite frankly, I think sometimes you deserve whatever you get.
Well, of course, unless you're the IRS and Lois Lerner, apparently, then the hard drives disappear and you throw them out. But no, you're right. I mean, you got to be out of your mind, first of all, to do something like that to any child or any animal or anything. And then to think you're going to get away with it, you have to be on top of being evil and psychotic. You have to be delusional.
Despicable. What have you got coming up today, my friend?
We got Joe Lieberman joining us right at the top of the show. We're going to talk to him about the situation in the Middle East and also the IRS scandal and Obama's alleged power grab. So we get his insight on that. We have Ed Rollins to talk about the campaigns that are going on and the political scene. We have a lot of good stuff on tap, including Give Me 5 that warns you not all songs that you might think are pro-American as we head into 4th of July are pro-American.
All right, Steve Mosberg and the Steve Mosberg Show. Joe Lieberman today, starting Monday, a feature Newsmax TV Road to the White House, in-depth coverage of one potential candidate per day as well. Have a wonderful 4th of July, my friend. We'll see you on Monday.
You too, Ed. Stay safe.
All right, take care, everybody. So that's Monday coming up there, and that's coming up here. We're back on Monday as well because we do it right here at 9 o'clock in the morning, starting with America's Forum, MidPoint, and then the Steve Mosberg Show. Rock on, true believers. A very happy 4th of July. Enjoy it. Have fun with your friends and your family. Relax. We'll see you right back here on Monday because this is MidPoint, where every day we question everything. Have a great weekend.